All right, welcome everybody to the Board of Equalization meeting for Monday, April 6th. If we get a roll call, please, Maureen.
Sure. Weigel.
Here.
Sowski. Here. Berg. Here. Polensky. Here. Friedals.
Here.
Dean.
Here.
President Sandy.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Item 1.2, duties of the Board of Equalization. You're taking that one, Ms. Lazur, please.
I will try. I am not an attorney, so you'll have to pardon my very layman verbiage here. But as a Board of Equalization, you'll hear appeals on property valuations. You have the authority to increase or decrease the assessments for uniformity. You will hear grievances from property owners regarding their valuation. As a local board, your focus is on reviewing, or our focus on is on reviewing and correcting individual properties and their assessments within the city. When a property owner appeals their assessment for overvaluation, they're asked to provide supporting evidence indicating that the assessed value may not reflect current market conditions. Evidence may include recent appraisals, certified fee appraisal, or other relevant market data. Such documentation assists us in our assessing department and the Board of Equalization in conducting a thorough and informed review. We will hear from the property owners at the end of our meeting. They can come up and address you with their property address, their name and property addresses at the end of this, and then we would reconvene at a later date for the staff reports and our findings. Any questions on that?
No, if you want to just go right into any questions for Ms.
sure
Lazur,
do.
go right into 1.3. Comments by City Assessor.
I have very brief comments here for you. As you know, our assessing department is tasked with valuing all taxable property in the city of Grand Forks. We analyze sales. We look at the data to support our valuations. Market adjustments are made based on sales in the neighborhood. We're charged with using that data collection through reappraisal and sales review, and then analyzing to provide the estimates and value that are fair, reasonable, and supportable. This slide will show you that we did 2,125 residential properties for our reappraisal. In addition to that, we did 221 multifamily properties. They were between 5 and 18 units, and we haven't done them in quite some time. So we took that time and did a exterior reappraisal with them. Of the residential properties, 33% allowed us into their properties at reappraisal time. That's running consistent with over the years. Exactly. So nothing new there. This slide is showing you our valuations from the sales ratio data. You can see on the commercial side, our historical is 94.4%. Residential is 88.95%. This slide shows the relationship between our assessed valuation and the sales prices for the commercial and the residential properties. As a note, our commercial sales, we did not have 30 sales. That is standard that we are required to have. So we had to go back last year and supplement with those sales to provide our sales ratio study. Interestingly, that of the residential sales, between 91 and 92% of the residential sales have sold for more than our assessment values were on them. You can see here how in our matrices of providing horizontal and vertical equity, we are within the ranges as prescribed by the International Assessing Officers Association. The trends that we're seeing is that inventory is still going to continue to be an issue. Over the past 5 years, in 2021, we had 750 usable sales. This year we have 573. So sales are less because inventory is not there, is my interpretation of it. So I think that breeds to a note to the need for housing in our area. New construction, we had 15 new construction permits in 2025. 4 of them were government properties between school, city pump station, all true, and a building out at the airport. The rest, so we've started Cirrus, All True Sports Complex, and the BMX buildings. Those have started this year. So next year, or within the near future, we're going to have Agristo, the Children's Museum, and Brookstone. And residentially, we had 85 new construction permits. That's still down a little bit from our high point, but those are our numbers for current. This is giving you our preliminary true and full value. We have increased a 4.03% from last year to this year. This is a reflection of, where's my numbers? 1.47% in growth, 2.56% in revaluation with regard to our taxable values. This is showing our taxable value based on these preliminary numbers. Our taxable value based on what we have today is $313,992,785. So you can see here our taxable value growth. Those numbers are different than what true and full value is, but it's based on the difference between the residential assessment rate and commercial. And then we go into the exemptions that we have. So these non-discretionary exemptions are the state prescribed ones, charitables, blind, wheelchair, childcare. Those have remained fairly consistent. This is the discretionary ones, the new business pilot and TIF. In 2 weeks or whenever we set our next board, we will have our annual report for you. You will see how this new business pilot and TIF has increased about $43.5 million from 25. And that's due because of Memorial Village 2 has been completed this year. And then the remodel exemptions, new home and builder. That is my presentation. It's very brief, but if you have any specific questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them. And I would say that thank you to my assessing staff for what they do. They do a good job, and I'm proud of what we have done. So,
sounds good, Ms. Lazur. I got a couple questions for you, but I'll let Ms. Oselski go first, please.
Yeah, I have a quick question on how we assess basements.
So in the past 5 years, essentially around the time that we had the 9 inches of rain come through, about that point, we started seeing an influx of properties with no basement, on slab or crawl space. They were selling for virtually the same amount as a full basement. We had to make an adjustment. We waited till we got some data in order to support what number that we were going to use. When we finally had something of a data set, a paired data set, we used that information to come up with the number to add back in to the valuation. Our Canvas system has a base of a full basement, and the slabs are not, or crawl spaces are not the full basement valuation. The data has showed they're about 85 to 90%. And so we've used that as a barometer and had to implement it into our valuations. And it has proved I have not had a sale in the last 2 years come through where my valuation was over a sale price. And I have to list it. I can't list it as a full basement because it's not a full basement. And so when our system takes out value, removes value, I have to find a way that is supportable in our market to reflect the valuations that are coming through.
I guess one of the complaints that I had is someone's, assessment jumped up pretty high, and then they contacted the city, and they were told because now spaces are assessed at the same as a full unfinished business or basement. And I guess I don't really understand that when you're talking about even crawl spaces. I mean, it's a dirt floor. There's not even any type of opportunity for people to do anything with their crawl spaces. A lot of these people who have crawl spaces have to fight, if their water heater goes down there and stuff, they oftentimes have to buy special, short and wide water heaters for their homes. And so I guess I'm really confused about why we're assessing an unfinished basement the same as a crawl space. And I find that really hard to believe.
Ms. Lazur, I think you just said it's not the same. Would you
It's
say crawl spaces?
85%, right? Is that what
90%.
it's
Yeah,
at?
so it wouldn't be the same. Crawl spaces and slabs are treated the same roughly? Is that where you're at? Okay.
Yes.
All right. Is that?
And they're not
help?
the same as an unfinished basement then. They're 85% of an unfinished basement.
Sure, Councilperson Osowski, I understand your concern and your comments. Unfortunately, our sales and our local market data doesn't suggest that that's the case. And until we have more evidence to support something different, I will then make that adjustment. But until I have some evidence to change that theory, that market adjustment, I would suggest us holding the course.
So is that 85% of an unfinished basement was what a crawl space
Yes,
is being
and I-
assessed at?
Yeah, and
Okay.
I believe it was 90% that I used. When I looked at crawl spaces versus slabs, I had a paired data set, and the crawl spaces,
So
it was 90% is the adjustment that was
So I
made.
have an unfinished basement, and then I have a crawl space and a slab are assessed equally, correct?
Correct.
And they are 85% of what an unfinished basement would be assessed at.
The
correct?
values are telling us that
But
the
that's how
case.
we're going forward, is that
Yes.
crawl spaces and slabs are assessed at 85% of what an unfinished basement would
Correct.
be.
And they are depreciated along with the age of the property. They, I guess that was my only point.
Okay.
And
I
you're
get that.
using market sales.
Right.
You're not using, yeah. So this is the market that's saying that she has to keep it within the percentage
Right.
required by the state. So it's the data.
And I understand that. I disagree that they should be assessed at 85%, but obviously that's a decision that has been made. So thank you.
And you're just, again, using market sales. So it's not really a decision that you get to make. It's a decision that's forced upon you by the state to be within the limits.
I had to find a way. I had to find a method that was equitable across the board. And I can't treat 1970 crawl spaces and not make that adjustment when I'm doing it to 2000, whatever age another one is, where that might be different.
And you've
I
had,
have to do the same. I find it important to do the same thing across the board so that we are consistent and in our values.
and you've had zero that have sold for a market value less than the assessed. So you've always had them assessed at lower. And in fact, in 2025, you had every marketable sale added together at an arm's length. So they're not your brothers selling it to each other. You were roughly 89 cents on the dollar as far as where you had it assessed versus what it sold for. That was my question.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. We actually just had a sale happen here a couple of weeks ago, 1970s build on slab and I'll be honest with you, those do concern me. But it sold for, I'm still less than the valuation.
All right. Any other questions for Ms. Lazur? Otherwise, we'll receive formal protests.
So I would ask if, I do have, this afternoon, I did receive, properties from at 1118 8th Avenue South, 717 Reeves Drive, 701 Demers, 1127 South 12th Street, and 505 and 507 North 3rd Street. Those provided us with an email or a phone call stating that they wanted to appeal their valuations. So if there's anybody else here in the crowd that has a concern that they want to raise, now would be the time to please step up.
Okay, and then you'll work, not only those, but the others, between now and that formal hearing date you'll work to resolve there as much as possible, and then we'll have the hearing. All right, and you've got that over to finance, those addresses?
I will get them to them this evening, tomorrow morning. Yep.
All right, Ms. Dorso, if you want to read in 1.4, and then we'll open it up.
All right, 1.4 then will receive formal protests and set the date to reconvene as the Board of Equalization.
All right, so if there's anyone that wants to add their address into that formal protest, to be formally protested, please come forward to the microphone now. Don't all come at once. And if you had been called by her, you wouldn't have to. We'll have that in the record. But if you weren't, please make sure you come up.
Well, actually, I did call, so I don't know why my name was on there. It wasn't, or address wasn't on there, but
What property are you at? please?
3712 Belmont Road.
Okay, I was not aware of it, so
Okay.
my apologies. Thank you.
And I guess my first some general comments. I guess I know you guys have a really hard time when there's such a lack of housing stock in this city that everybody's paying a lot more for homes than they typically would if there were a lot of housing house options for the people. In our case, I live in a house that was 3712 Belmont. It was built in 1975. We've not made any improvements since 2012. And our taxes, evaluations have gone up about 5.8% since 2017. And this year, I know there's not much you can do about this, but our evaluation went up over $100,000, went up 28%. And it just seems kind of out of the ordinary. I guess another comment, some of the comps when we talked to the assessor's office were homes that were built like after 1985, and ours was built in 1975. I don't know if that age, if there's a factor. Homes don't last forever. You know, a simple ranch, which we're in, maybe 100 years. So we're into it, 50 some years already. So I don't know, our valuations start going down after a simple ranch, because in another 40 years or so, this house will probably be torn down and rebuilt. Just some comments. Thank you for hearing me.
Yep. Thank you, sir. And then no decision will be made tonight. They'll get in touch with the assessor's office and go from there. And then the final decision, what is the date that we're setting? Did you have, Ms.
I
Lizer?
think we can go with 2 weeks, the April 20th.
April 20th. So you'll hear from her office in the meantime, and then
I did put
final.
some exhibits together to kind of illustrate this.
Perfect. Yep, you can just leave that right there with Ms. Sorsted. And that was 3712 Belmont Road, correct? Thank you. All right, next.
Hi, I live at 3086 44th Avenue South. Been seeing the typical increases in my tax property values over the last few years. However, from 2025 to 2026, I saw an increase of $37,000 with not making a single change to my property at all. I did a little bit of investigating here. One thing that we did that our neighbors maybe didn't do is that we did allow for an interior inspection on our property. That's the only thing really we've done differently this year than we have last. And I think that's partly the reason why I'm seeing the increase. I live in a modest 2,700 square foot, 2-story on slab. And actually have 2 houses that are exactly the same as mine in my neighborhood. I actually pulled all of the information here and noticed that this year I was assessed as a 5-bedroom, not 4. And also what appears to be 2 3-stall garages. So I'm just wondering if there's some other look that we could take at this. I'm just surprised at the increase I saw this year.
We'll definitely take a look at it.
Okay.
All right, that's all for today. And then they'll be in touch. And then the final decision will be 2 weeks from today.
Okay, sounds good. Would you like any of this information?
We can get it when we come see you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And that was 3086 44th Avenue South, correct? All right.
Correct.
Very good.
My name is Gene Dubois, Dubois, Gene. I live at 2304 Chestnut. The house was built in 1956. You have raised the assessment on my house $59,000, which is outrageous because I have not done anything to it from the last time an assessor came. That was 2 years ago. So what I would like to do, if possible, is to have somebody come and physically assess how suddenly I'm paying or I'm going to be charged for $59,000 more of house. Okay. I might add, my wife and I are retired. We live off of Social Security and our pension, and that would represent a chunk of what we live off of. Personally, I find it outrageous that suddenly a house that has been sitting there since 1956 is now worth over $400,000 when Zillow doesn't even have it assessed at that. So I'd really appreciate if the powers that be could look into this and perhaps in some way change its view. 2 bedrooms upstairs, a guest room downstairs, unfinished basement. It's an old house. So if that can be done, I would very much appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thank you, sir. All right, any others, please, sir?
Excuse me. Good evening, members of the board. My name is James Hayes, but I go by Jim. I'm a new resident to North Dakota and a new resident to Grand Forks. I came up to take a contract job with the Space Force, working as an engineer on a satellite project, and I need to be within a 30-minute drive because our operation is a 24/7 operation. I need to be within a 30-minute drive, so I looked all around to Northwood and Hatton and Larimore and decided to move here into Grand Forks. I bought a house at 17 Fenton Avenue, which is a 109-year-old house. Along with it came a lot next to it at 21 Fenton Avenue. It's in the Riverside neighborhood. When I first bought the property, I realized it was 2 separate parcels, and I called the city a year ago when I bought the house in July to see what I could build on that smaller parcel. And since it's part of the original Riverside Grand Forks development, it was so narrow and so long that I could not build anything on it. So there's no utilities on it, no residents on it, no mother-in-law suite. And so when I get a tax bill, I get 2 separate tax bills, one for the house at 17 and one for the empty lot at 21. I'm being taxed on that. When I bought the house, there was 2 sheds. One was a neighbor's shed that I asked him to remove, and one was a shed that was the previous owner of the house that I bought. So the only thing that I can do on that lot is to put a shed on it. And I'm being taxed at what I think is a high tax rate. And if you're going by market sales on how to assess these lots, I can't build anything on it. The city says I cannot join the 2 lots because there's an easement, there's an alleyway that goes between the 2 lots that I have to do nothing on it and still be taxed on it. So it's really an unsellable lot for development. So
Sir, did you want them to look at 17 Fenton or just the
just at
the other lot?
21
Just the lot?
Fenton.
Okay,
They're combined,
But-
sort of.
but
So.
yeah, I understand. Perfect. They'll be in touch with you.
All right, thank you.
Yep, thanks. And Ms. Lazur, as you're reaching out to people, are you going to go right to the property tax information? I'm just making sure you're able to reach out to them and get a hold
Yep.
of somebody.
What I would ask is all the property owners, if they would meet up with my force assessing people for phone numbers and emails so that we can reach out to them and make the appointments. We
Okay.
will do that.
You want them to do that right now, or are you
Yes,
saying?
please.
Okay,
Yes,
right.
or when this meeting is over, they can do that.
Perfect. Okay, Sheila will be on the hallway. Oh, you got a couple. Perfect.
Yep.
All right. All right, any other protests for this evening?
Couldn't hear, Mayor.
Oh, sorry, any other protests for this evening? On item 1.4, please. Yep.
I own the property at 374 Peyton's Place Circle. And I believe the assessment between last year and this year went up by about close to 16%, which seems a little high based on some market recent sales I looked at and other factors of market factors in this area. There weren't any improvements to the property. So I'm assuming the reassessment and valuation is based only on the change in the market forces. And like I said, it seems like it's a little bit higher than what I've seen in my research.
Sure. We'll take a look at it.
Thank you. 374 Peyton's Place Circle. All right, thank you, sir. Please, sir.
Yes, please.
Good evening. My name is Jerry Moran. Live at 605 24th Avenue South for a long time now. My spiel will be very short. We got the notice and saw that it had gone up $14,000 from last year. Due to illness in the family, we haven't been able to complete any projects this past year, so everything is the same. Being a retired on fixed income, both of us, this December, that's going to be a chunk for us to swallow. That's about it. That's about it for me.
Thank you, sir.
What happens now?
So they're going to work with you over the next 2 weeks, and then in 2 weeks, if they haven't resolved it, we'll have the final decision by this board here.
Thanks, people.
Yep. That nice gal standing back there will get your phone number. Yep. All right, just leave it open for a minute more or a few more seconds if anybody else. All right, so now we'll be looking for a motion to accept those protests and set the date for the, to reconvene as the Board of Equalization on 14 days. It'd be April 20th.
I motion.
We got a motion. Do we have a second? Second, President Sandy. Motion from Osowski, second by President Sandy. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Okay, look for a motion
move
to adjourn.
adjournment.
Motion adjourned from Osowski, second from Berg. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. All right, moving right along, we'll call to order the Grand Forks City Council meeting for Monday, April 6th. Give me a roll call, please, Maureen.
Weigel.
Here.
Osowski.
Here.
Berg. Here. Lunsky.
Here.
Friedals.
Here.
Dean.
Here.
And President Sandy.
Here.
We have a quorum. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 1.2, Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, item 1.3, Mayor's announcements, 2 announcements this evening. I just want to thank all those that attended the State of the Base last week. A great turnout. I think Colonel Rosales did a phenomenal job, and our base is in great hands and only improving, which is great to see. It was a story of retention in the past, and now it's a story of enhancement. So it's pretty exciting to get to be just a small part of that. One other announcement, with great sadness, and I just wanted to offer condolences and deepest sympathies to the family of Jim Sheaf. He had worked in the Public Works Department in the street division as an equipment operator since 2017, so almost 10 years with the city. And really unexpectedly, he had passed away at just 46 years old. So pretty sad to see. I know he has a family. He will be greatly missed. So just wanted to give my condolences, and life is precious. So very sad to see. All right, move on to item 2, awards, presentations, appointments, and proclamations.
All right. 2.1 is a proclamation, Fair Housing Month, April 2026.
All right, we got that one attached. I'm going to move through the proclamations today. I know we got a packed agenda. So go to the next.
2.2, proclamation, National Public Health Week, April 6th through 12th, 2026, and presentation of the Health Champions Awards.
Awesome. That's also attached. I know we got a presentation right now from Public Health, so we'll jump right into that for our Champions Award. We got, oh, there we go. Perfect. I know Tess is coming as well. And I think I come down for this part. You ready for me?
Yeah.
All right.
Good evening, Mayor Bachensky, President Sandy, and members of City Council. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak this evening. My name is Sarah Odegaard, and I'm a nurse with Grand Forks Public Health. As noted in the proclamation, today marks the start of National Public Health Week, an initiative led by the American Public Health Association to celebrate public health professionals, highlight the impact of public health services, and advocate for policies that create a healthier nation. I have the privilege of co-chairing our local National Public Health Week committee, and it's truly an honor to present the 2026 Public Health Champion awardees. Before we begin with awards, I'd like to briefly highlight 2 free community-wide events happening this week, both of which come with a chance to win a 12-month car wash pass generously donated by our friends at Rydell Chevrolet. First event, we have our Healthy Selfie Challenge. Participants are invited to submit a photo to the discussion tab of our event on the Grand Forks Public Health Facebook page promoting physical or mental well-being. Entries must be posted by 5 p.m. on April 9th to be eligible for the drawing, which will take place Friday morning. Second, we're hosting a roll and stroll event this Wednesday at 1 p.m. This statewide initiative encourages physical activity in honor of National Public Health Week. We'll gather at Town Square by the paddle wheel, so whether you walk, roll, or just come for the fresh air, we'd love to see you there. Additional details can be found on our Facebook page. Now to the awards. They are in order, so. Our first award goes to Ashley Bain, Assistant Director of the UND Public Health Program. Since 2020, Ashley has served as the de facto director and continues to move the program forward in ways that are beneficial to both UND and Grand Forks communities. A few examples of her work include helping stand up UND's joint Juris Doctor / Master of Public Health program, updating UND's MD / Masters of Public Health program, and helping UND students engage in a host of community-based public health events with area health departments and health providers. Thank you, Ashley, for your leadership and for helping shape the future of public health. Next is a double. So we're going to recognize Taylor Rested and Jamie Zuniga. Taylor and Jamie are with the Grand Forks Housing Authority. They work tirelessly for those in our community that are experiencing housing insecurity. They lead the team at the Nest on 4th to meet folks where they are, provide shelter, and work with many community partners to get clients connected with essential community services. Thank you, Taylor and Jamie, for your dedication and your compassionate service. We are pleased to honor Nancy O'Hara, Director of Development at United Way, with a Public Health Champion Award. Nancy is committed to connecting people with resources and has consistently collaborated with Women's Way, a service that connects women to life-saving breast and cervical cancer screenings. Her efforts have strengthened community trust, increased screening participation, and improved access to preventative care, making a measurable difference in early detection outcomes. Thank you, Nancy, for your continued commitment and improving community health. And last but not least, we recognize Corporal Brian Sampson, Community Outreach Officer with the Grand Forks Police Department. Brian has demonstrated exceptional leadership in advancing community health through alcohol and tobacco prevention efforts. His collaborative approach has promoted responsible retail practices, reduced underage sales and number of fake IDs, and increased community awareness. His work exemplifies public health principles and makes a positive impact on the health of our community and the health of our youth. Thank you, Officer Sampson, for your service and dedication. Thank you again, and congratulations to all of our 2026 public health champions. And thank you again for the time and space to honor these outstanding individuals.
Are city employees eligible to win those prizes? They are. Yeah, good to know.
2.3 is the 42nd Street and Demers Avenue project update.
Oh, was President Sandy going to win this award next year? I don't know. Yeah, all right.
No, the prizes.
Oh, the prizes. Okay. Oh, yeah.
If I could do something in public health, I'd certainly like.
All right. Moving on, Mr. Krenko, please.
Good evening, Mayor Baczynski and members of the council. Tonight, I'm joined here with Blue Weber and Chris Dahl from Bolton and Mink, as well as Wayne Zacher and Michael Johnson from the DOT Online. We've been making a fair amount of progress on this 42nd Street Underpass project. It has been bid out and awarded by the DOT. And so now it's time to give you all a project update. And with that, I'll hand it off to Blue.
Perfect. Thanks so much. Thanks for having me tonight. One thing that I want to touch on before getting started is if we can just hold questions until the very end, we will have some time to answer questions about detour routes, all that fun stuff. And Mr. Dahl is here to answer any of the smart person questions that I will not know the answers to. But before even getting started, I do want to just point to the fact that we have this as the 4-2D Alliance. It was a really important thing for us to talk about because this is a partnership. This is a massive project for the city of Grand Forks, and without the DOT and the city leading that charge, we wouldn't be able to be where we're at. So just really wanted to kind of throw my hat out for all of those people who have made this happen. So some of these first slides are really just going to be recaps about what you already know, but why this project exists. It's everything from delay to some safety issues, north-south connectivities, especially with how the city is growing, especially with the 42nd corridor growing the way it is. This is one of those projects that's just very necessary, and it's been a long time in the making. And so really nice to see it finally happening. From there, I just wanted to kind of go over a couple big historic milestones. Earliest feasibility studies date actually all the way back to the 90s. That's how long this has been talked about, as well as talking about what that right-of-way and property acquisition would look like. From there, it led into the environmental document, and then most recently saw the FRA railroad grant be awarded. And then that's where we came in to do that final design. And what we're here tonight, and really what the meat and potatoes of tonight's presentation is the upcoming construction window and what that looks like. So another brief recap, just wanted to remind you all about the preferred alternative, which is this jug handle. So back in 2023, City Council did approve the environmental document with two alternatives. One was a sunken intersection, and the other one was this jug handle. The DOT then proceeded forward with the jug handle alternative, the B1. So some of the different final design notes that we wanted to make and inform you all on that are a little different from maybe last time you saw us were this wider median up on Demers for a potential left turn lane over to that gas station, which in turn actually widened the Demers Avenue Bridge, and then some widening of the BNSF Railway Bridge to make way for an access and maintenance roadway, as well as a third rail line. Just a reminder about this east jug handle that cuts over into Ray Richards Golf Course, and then this 3/4 access on 42nd for the Top Tracer Golf Facility. And then a big point here is all of the utility work that has to go into this. This is everything from stormwater improvements to the water main replacement and a lift station to make sure that there's not big puddles of water sitting down in there. And then this Backage Road cul-de-sac that does preserve some access for that gas station as well. So this is just really a nice overview for you all to see what that final design looks like. So you can see where that backage road is. You can see what the intersection and the other intersection up on Demers will look like, and really just a nice way to see this. An important thing to talk about, though, is that landscaping aesthetics and the placemaking, really making this not just another roadway, but a very pretty project for town. So some of the things that you're seeing here are the decorative lighting up on top. These will be RGB lighting, similar to maybe the Sorley Bridge, and then as well as some decorative fencing, pigmented concrete. This really, as you can see down underneath the overpass, where you can see the way that it will delineate between sidewalks and where you're not intended to walk, and what some of those form liners look like. So a lot of this prairie grass theme all the way throughout the entire project. But you can see from all of these different angles, it's going to be a really nice looking project for town as well. So these are just kind of those last angles showing what it'll look like, especially with those pedestrian facilities as well, cutting through. So a massive improvement to the area. So this video is just to really show you how that intersection will function. So how vehicular traffic will move through, as well as what pedestrians will be seeing. So if you're coming off of the interstate and heading to campus, for example, you're going to come east on Demers, and then you're going to take a right at that intersection, come around on the jug handle, and then actually go under. So this is really just to show you all how that intersection and the other one will be functioning once people are actually moving through the area. So construction phasing, we've broken this down into 5 primary phases, really to make it as easy and simple as possible and really explain to you all of the work that goes into this project once it starts getting underway. So that first phase actually is going to be starting here in the next month or so. This is really starting to set up everything for the shoe fly. This is where we move that railroad over to the right, so that way railroad access can be maintained all the way throughout the duration of the project, as well as this Demers bypass, so that way you can continue having traffic move through. So you can see on the image on the right where that Demers bypass comes around and what that shoe fly looks like. So that's these 2 first phases, really moving into about middle of summer, hopefully having that wrapped up by July 4th at the latest kind of thing. Phase 2 moves into where we start doing a lot of digging. So this is the bulk of most of the phasing. You can see here, this is where we start doing a lot of earthwork in this middle. We start building out the actual bridges for Demers and the railroad, and do a lot of water main and storm sewer work on that as well. From there, we go into phase 3, where we remove that shoe fly and that bypass. And then this is where we move into the actual usage of that bridge and that rail line. So you can see that Demers traffic, both on the rail and vehicular and pedestrian traffic, is moving at all times. So from there, we start to work on that 42nd Street jug handle and that backage road construction. And so this is where a lot of the work is going through to make sure that we're setting up for 42nd to be opened back up. And then from there, phase 5, where we're wrapping up, is you can see these 2 brown areas closer to the interstate and closer almost to the east side of the project area. That's where we start working on Demers itself being reconstructed in those areas as well. And from there, then we get to work on all the fun stuff of the lighting, striping, site restoration, project closeout. So intended to be near the end of next year. One of the big questions probably is, what do the detours look like on this? So what you'll see on the left side of the screen is phases 1B and 2, since phase 1A doesn't really have any disruption since it's starting to lay the groundwork. But phases 1B and 2 will still have access for that southbound on 42nd, but not going northbound. So basically what it will have is access for Demers as well as 42nd going southbound. From there, phases 3 and 4 is where we move into just having Demers. So we do have a short closure of 42nd because that's when we're doing the underpass there. And so the only traffic will be able to flow across Demers, across the new bridge. some important things to note, just like Mr. Cranko already said, the construction bids have been awarded to Ames Construction. This is one of the foremost experts in this region when it comes to grade separation. So we put down 2 examples of major projects that they've done in this Red River Valley area down in Moorhead. So these are huge grade separation projects, but I think it's important to note that because these 2 are maybe Minnesota based, they do have really good working experience working with the DOT. The most recent was that big project in Bismarck. Anybody who's visited the brand new interchange, Ames Construction was the ones who worked on that. So very experienced when it comes to working with the DOT and know how to work on that. Another piece that we wanted to touch on was just the Ray Richards Golf Course redesign. This was a really important piece of the project and something that we thought was important to bring to you all and share. Here you'll see some existing data based on the par and the total yardage, and then what the new holes look like. So you can see that it goes from a 36 down to a 33 and actually adds a little bit of yardage. So brings it down by 8. Thank you, sir. Brings it down by 800 yards with the new holes. But you'll see that these does have some remaining existing holes as well as some reconfigured holes. And you'll see the Top Tracer driving range and that Greenview development that I know are still being worked on. But making sure that that was at least accounted for on our project with things like that 3/4 access. We are working on holding a public information meeting. So this is to share similar information to what you're seeing. We are working on a date and time on that one, but I don't have that decided just yet. But it'll be very similar to what you're seeing today with just a little bit more information, a little bit deeper dive on some of those reroutes, things like that. And from there, I'm going to hand it off to Mr. Cranko.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Weber. Sure, a lot of council members are looking at what is going to be the bottom line for the city when it comes to this project. Initially, you may recall, we ended up having the memorandum of understanding with the DOT discussing funding limitations that the city has towards this project. And that was incorporated as part of the cost participation and maintenance agreement, which capped the city's share at that 21.6 million, which is a fairly unusual agreement. Typically, it's a city has a fixed percentage share until federal funds are expended, and then the city would have to cover for 100% of any overages. This was an unusual and very fortunate for us with the DOT, where they agreed to cap the city's share on it. Now, as part of that, if there were cost savings that were associated with that, we were not necessarily guaranteed to see any of those savings. So very much so appreciate that the DOT did elect to share the cost savings that came in with that one. So right now, our anticipated city cost share is about 17.9 million. And that's being broken down between clean water SRF loans, drinking water SRF loans, as well as funding out of our Street and Infrastructure Fund 4815. Overall, we're looking at a potential local cost savings of about 3.7 million compared to what we were originally looking at. And you can see the total project cost right now is looking at about roughly $81 million with the breakdown as you can see it below. And with that, once again, would like to extend some appreciation and thanks to the DOT folks who have been working on this, as well as folks from Bolton and Menk, as well as our other partners who've been working on the development of this project. We do have Wayne and Michael Johnson on the phone in case you have any questions for the DOT. And with that, we can open things up for any questions you may have.
All right, we'll start with a question, just a comment. I think it's phenomenal the amount of people that came together to make this happen. This was talked about for 30 or 40 years, and the fact that it's going to come to fruition this summer is pretty amazing. The fact that we got BNSF to come to the table for at least a little bit of money, that's great. So thank you. We appreciate that, BNSF. The state, the federal government, obviously locally our taxpayers are paying for a large portion of it too, but it's a great project and it's going to be a great entrance to our city for the UND campus. And just overall, as you enter Grand Forks now, I think Demers is going to be the place to go, which aligns perfectly with what we've got going on 42nd Street. So just kudos to everyone that was involved to make this happen. It's pretty exciting that we're going to get to see this. Is that a guarantee? The end of next year, we're going to be fully operational and running up, or is that the hope? End of 27?
I believe right now the hope on that is to have everything complete and operational by the end of 2027.
All right.
That's the hope, at least at this point in time. We'll see how construction goes and what we happen to find and how the weather holds out for us during construction.
I'm sure I won't hear about it on Cano X if it's not ahead of schedule. So great. Any questions for the team? I know Ken's got some. Yeah, Mr. Veen, please.
So just a question on Ray Richards. When does that go down? Is it down for the whole 2 years, or is it, what's the timing of that?
Go ahead. Okay. I believe that is going to be closed for the duration of those 2 years that our project is going to be under construction as well. And a lot of that just has to do with the timing of our project, the timing for UND with their redevelopment as well. I think there's still some details being worked out on that, but I believe that's the game plan at this point in time.
Mr. Weigel, please.
Mr. Veen, Mr. Larson was shaking his head back there when they said the full 2 years, just so you're aware. I think for me, the biggest thing that I look at is public safety. And I think this is going to be tremendous for our law enforcement, our firefighters, being able to access specifically Ward 1 where I live. When there is trains coming, I often see fire trucks trying to race that train to either get to 55th or 42nd so that they can access that north end. And so this is something that I appreciate city staff and everybody else putting so much time and effort into.
Thank you. I did see on one side 42nd Street will be closed for a little while, but it's already closed for a little while now anytime there's a train there, so nothing new. Any further comments, Ms. Lunsky?
Just a quick question. Why are we taking out a drinking water SRF loan?
As part of the project, as part of the project, in order to construct the bridge, we have two 30-inch raw water lines that bring water from the Red River and the Red Lake River to our water treatment facility, as well as a large reverse osmosis residual line as well. Right now, where those are located, they're located right where the bridge would be constructed. So we need to get those lines out of the way, as well as I believe it's a 20-inch treated water line.
All right. Well, thank you for the presentation. We'll look forward to hearing more soon.
2.4 is maximizing the use of North Dakota's natural gas resource report.
Mayor Buczynski and members of the City Council, I'm blessed. We have Brian Kalk here tonight. He's the Chief Research Officer currently for the EERC, soon to be the President of Bismarck State College. And so he has helped lead this. I also want to give a lot of credit to the Chamber and Barry Wolfert and the EDC and Keith Lund. We've teamed up with the city and our two partners, Brian Kalk and the EERC, along with the North Dakota Pipeline Authority and Justin Kriegstead. We worked together on this report, not only for Grand Forks, for the region. And Brian's here to give us an overview. And we do a lot of the things on development, as you know, streets, all the water related utilities. But without natural gas, it would be hard for this community to grow, whether it's for residential, commercial, or industrial. So he's going to give us kind of a status update on that. And then I'm going to ask Keith and Barry if they have any follow-ups as part of the team. So with that, thank you for being here, Brian.
Sure. Thanks for the invite.
Mr. Kalk, please.
Yeah, well, thank you, Mayor, and members of the council. I'm excited to be here today. Mayor, as you know, we presented this to you here a while back. Nothing has changed from now other than I just want to get the whole group. And if there's any questions, feel free to blurt them out. It shouldn't take too long. I'll move through pretty quick. In the background, we do a lot of work with natural gas as it relates to oil production, we being ERC. And I first talked with Keith and Todd and the team here, Barry, about how we could maybe potentially have more of that come into the Grand Forks region. We were able to take some existing work, add a little bit on with no additional cost to the Grand Forks region to do some of this work. So that's kind of the backdrop, how we did it and how it all got funded. Just some definitions in the natural gas production world. There's lots of different definitions. You get your producers, your transporters. The way I look at it is the person that owns the pipeline is kind of like the truck driver. You know, they own it, they can do what they do, but the stuff falling through the gas, that somebody belongs to somebody else. So just because you own the pipeline doesn't mean you have access to what's moving down the pipeline. There's all kinds of arrangements on it. So it's not a straight straightforward as one might think in the world of moving gas around. Everybody's got their fingers in the cookie jar on how to regulate it, whether it's the North Dakota PSC, the DMR, you've got federal PHMSA, the pipeline authority. So when you deal about pipelines, a lot of people have a say in how they all work. And sometimes it's state jurisdiction, sometimes it's federal jurisdiction. A lot of the gas coming into Grand Forks comes in from the Minnesota side, so that brings in different areas. But it's, once again, I'm trying to set up the complexity, but also it's something we need to take care of in North Dakota to make sure we use all of our gas so we can keep the oil production up. This slide here kind of shows Justin Kringstead, Todd brought that up. Justin's been mapping this stuff for a long time, and you can see his estimates in the past. He's shown the numbers pretty reliable, what we think is going to be in gas production, and he shows a base case and a low case for what's coming. So there's going to be plenty of gas in North Dakota that we have to find a home for. Now, how we can get it to different parts of the state, I think, is a challenge we're going to work through here, but some real numbers of natural gas production in the state are out there. A lot of gas processing plants are being built in the state. I was in a PSC a few years ago, and at that time there was one in the state. You can look at the number now, there's a whole bunch of them. And so you got to take the gas and do something with it, break it apart into, when you have natural gas, you got your ethane, your propane, your butane, all different products, but you have to get one of these things to break them apart before you can move them down to find an audience or a home for them. This is an overview of the big pipelines that run through the state. And you can see up in, Great Grand Forks where we're at, there's not a lot of big lines that are headed up this way. And there's a line that's being built from across the western part of the state in the lower part of the state that I think Keith has been, I would say, very diligent in telling me ways that we should get it up here. And I appreciate that tenacity. But I think that's the driver is you look at, there's a natural area that we'd like to get. Most of the gas traditionally is flowing from northwest to southeast, and that's because the markets have been in Chicago, frankly. The gas contracts that were built back in the day were moving gas from Canada to Chicago. Then along the way, North Dakota started producing more, but that's how these lines got set up that way. So if we can somehow get some need and demand up in this part of the woods, that's where you can divert more of the gas. Gas storage is also something that we're looking at the ERC, salt cavern storage. So you've got different areas of production. One of the challenges is when you produce it, you got to do something with it. We were flaring gas in the state for years. We're down to almost zero on that, but you got to be able to use it or store it. And right now there's only one of those storage fields, but the western part of the state shows some promise. So if we could store it certain times of the year, then you could move it and kind of levelize your demand. So it's more of the holistic, what we're thinking about for the state. Another number here showing not only is production, demand is increasing throughout the state. We didn't see much gas used for power generation, but now Basin Electric and other companies are using natural gas for baseload plants, for peaking plants. And so as we need more power in the state, gas has become an option that so far really hasn't replaced anything. It's just more of the addition. We're needing more power, so you use gas to make electricity out of it. The study that we drilled down a little bit deeper on was dealing with what Keith helped us get some numbers put together of the population in Grand Forks. As I referred to earlier, the main line right now is a line coming out of Minnesota. The gas comes down out of Canada. A few years ago, we had a rupture in that line. It was a pretty bad deal. Price of gas spiked. Xcel Energy had to raise some of their costs, got passed to consumers. So if we can get more ways to get gas into the region, it's good for everybody. It's a win across the board. The bottom number, to kind of put things in perspective, I talked about all the gas that's being produced, but roughly, 1.6% of the gas is being used in Grand Forks, so it's not a lot of it's being used, but we need to find a home for all of it, but just try to show what we could do in this region and other parts of the state. This is kind of the current gas usage that's happening in the state, kind of show you where it's being used. And this next slide I just went back to did I skip one here? That's our current one. And then there's some other areas that things that could switch to more natural gas. Maybe Keith, I'll defer to you if there's more questions about some of these companies, but these are companies that could be adding more gas usage to the region, which would basically double what you're using up here now. So that would then become more enticing to build some pipelines and come up this way. And then I think I just talked about that, got a little duplication in here. This is showing that the next slide will give out some detailed numbers, but if we could bring in all kinds of, transition some traditional coal users, frankly, to gas or bring in some other demand, you could bring that demand up pretty high. But what that would mean is, Crystal Sugar is a great operation. They've been using coal for a long time. I don't think they're in any hurry to switch over, but who knows? But what I'm getting at is there's some other things that if you need more electricity up here, if you look at other areas, there could be some significant gas that would come up here that would entice, I think, some pipeline companies in. I think to I'm just going to get right to the last slide. I think the most important thing to think about is that I think my viewpoint is if somebody's willing to sign a gas contract, somebody's going to deliver a pipeline up here because they'll get a long-term commitment to build it, and then you get your 10-year period, if you will. But there's a lot of other things that I think as a state and as a region we can do to educate people about what Grand Forks could bring to the equation of using more gas in the state. And as the mayor brought up in our previous meeting, I mean, getting the coalition in Grand Forks to educate people about what is potentially opportunity in Grand Forks, because the natural gas production world, they think about gas moving northwest to southeast because that's where your big markets are at. So it takes some switching of people's viewpoints that, hey, wait, maybe we could deliver some to different parts of the state. So I think that's probably my prepared remarks, just to show you that there's plenty of gas out there. I think there's some opportunity, and happy to answer any questions. And if not, let Todd follow through with the rest of the crowd. So happy to answer any questions.
Sounds good. Any questions? President Sandy, please.
Mr. Call, thank you. Thanks for being here. Interesting study. So who do we buy like me personally, who do I buy my natural gas from to heat my house?
Chances are you buy it from Excel Energy.
So, right. And so do you know what percentage of market share does Excel have in, well, I mean, they have 100% in Grand Forks. What do they have across the state?
Yeah, great question. Excel Energy is roughly, North Dakota is roughly 4% of Excel Energy's business, and that's electricity and gas. So I can't give you the exact number for gas, but Excel is actually a pretty small player in the gas world because the western part of the state, MDU Resources is a big gas player, Basin Electric is a big gas player. A lot of the different companies are, there's just a lot. Excel is a small player, I guess would be my answer in the state. They're a huge player in Grand Forks.
Sure. We need to get other players interested in serving our community. Thank you, Mayor.
Well,
Thank
maybe
you again.
If I can just be so bold as to throw one more thing, Excel also delivers gas to Fargo. And so I think it's not just Grand Forks. The Viking line that comes down, and I showed it, that comes down and drops off in Grand Forks, that also goes to Fargo. So if Excel would be willing to take more gas commitment in Fargo and Grand Forks, there's probably a pathway that might work.
Sure. Thank you, sir.
Excel won't like that, but it's the truth.
Any other questions?
I have a question.
Yeah, please, Mr. Veen.
So a few years ago, I know we had a problem with the gas transmission line, and we just about ran out of gas
Absolutely.
here in town. So we have no redundancy. Does that fit into the equation somehow, that we get another line so we have redundancy?
I see Todd making a point. I think yes is the answer. I think it's how you build that redundancy. And some of it, people have backup heating, but I think I'll defer if there's a better person than that.
I think there is, Brian talked about that, bad winter day where everything worked out but it was a middle of winter. It was really cold out. There was a mishap in Canada, and we were very, very close to being out of natural gas in this area. And there were a lot of people that had a lot of concerns with Excel Energy with not a lot of answers, but everything worked out. So I think redundancy is a big deal for us too, along with just overall growth and expansion on that new line that WBI is, looking to build from, as Brian said, from that northwest to the southeast. And maybe with that, Keith, you got some really great words on what's next from here on, where do we take this information and really advocate for Grand Forks in the region. And Keith's been doing a lot of the gritty work, and I think he has the best elevator pitch on where do we go from here.
Okay, we're on. Thank you, Todd, Mayor Berchinski, members of the City Council. Been a pleasure. I want to first recognize the EERC. Brian just briefly mentioned that no cost to the city. And the EERC is North Dakota's Energy Research Center, and so I guess their thought process in terms of doing this work on behalf of the Grand Forks region is on behalf of the state of North Dakota. And really, when you take a look at all the areas that additional natural gas is going to enhance throughout the state of North Dakota with existing pipelines and new pipelines, especially those that are coming across I-94. Northeast North Dakota is the one area that is not enhanced without some additional work. So I really appreciate Brian and the team at the ERC for doing the work. Right now, just as a background, the WBI is developing the pipeline. They haven't made their final FERC filing, which is the national filing that they have to do. But they're out there collecting interest. The state of North Dakota approved a $50 million a year gap purchased in order to move that project along. In the next short order, we'll have an understanding of what amount of that is needed really to support the demand that they are able to get through those open season and firm commitments. Our hope is that there will be some of that resource left available to have a conversation with the state about potentially diverting some of that to a northern route. No guarantees in life, but that's at least the thought process now. You may be referring to this, Todd, in terms of inviting me up to say some comments. And I take a look in terms of a positioning of a region in terms of natural gas. At the very top of that sort of ladder is there's gas here, now plug in and just, go ahead and be successful. The second sort of layer of that is natural gas is coming, so business really organize and be ready when it does come. The third level of that is we have pipeline companies that are willing to, as long as there's demand and we have to convince them, or if somebody wants to do a project, they introduce them to pipeline companies and they work out the deal, and it takes 2 or 3 years in order to develop it. And the last one is we don't have any gas available. So thank goodness we're not in that position. We have significant natural gas in our service territory. We would like it closer to Grand Forks and be able to demonstrate to industry that that is coming. So that's our goal. Maybe the last thing I'll say, and Mr. Phelan, if there's something that I missed you wanted me to say, please let me know. We visited with Justin Kringsted, who is the North Dakota Pipeline Authority Director over many, many years. And he's talked about for years, for that long time, the desire and the goal of finding a home for natural gas, which is really about the expansion out of the Bakken. There's restrictions on flaring. If they don't find a home for natural gas, oil production decreases, and that's a big part of the state's wealth. He said number one priority is finding a home for natural gas, but number two is to use North Dakota natural gas to help grow North Dakota's economy. So we have an ally as long as there's a business case to be made in Grand Forks. Happy to answer questions beyond that.
All right. Thank you. Ms. Osowski, you got a question, please.
Yeah. First off, I support the pipeline, so that's really exciting news. I do have some questions, though. Do you think that if the state of North Dakota invests, or like even the city of Grand Forks, anybody invests in this giant pipeline, obviously it's going to cost us a lot of money. Would you see then that homes that do use natural gas, that their energy rates would go up, or would we get someone else to compete against Xcel then? And this is just kind of for home ownership. I mean, I would hate to, invest so heavily and then it just gets pushed off to the homeowner who sometimes struggles to pay some of their, heat bills in the wintertime. And so I am concerned about that.
I would say that the comments I'm about to make do not reflect the view of the ERC.
Okay.
Seriously, I mean that, but my time on the Public Service Commission is where I would do the best to answer this question. Xcel is a regulated utility, and so you can't just have somebody come in and use their space, but they can always switch to propane or do other things. Okay. But yeah, there's certainly, you could get other people to come in and do other things, but it's going to come back to the cost to compete. I think I would go back to that. You just present options like Keith said to, hey, we could use some, and whether who delivers it in Grand Forks area, you just get it. The people are thinking about the usages up here and demand is there. Because if we don't get the gas used, oil production will stop, because the older a well becomes, the more gas comes out of it. And so eventually you got to find a home for it. But I guess I wouldn't, as a former PSC guy, I wouldn't bank too much about a lot of competition coming in. You want to get somebody to use to serve what you can. And I think the biggest thing on natural gas is if you do the electricity from gas or coal or wind or whatever, those things tie into your rates and all that gets rolled up in there.
Okay, so before they kind of decide more on the pipeline, then do these companies have to commit to building in Grand Forks? Is that kind of the direction?
Well, what I know from pipelines, back to where I started the conversation, where traditionally gas flowed northwest to southeast, you had companies in Chicago saying, we need gas. They signed a 20-year contract with somebody up in Canada, and they built the pipeline because they had a 20-year commitment to buy that gas. That's how it all starts. So you get somebody on the one end that'll willing to buy the gas for some long period of time. Somebody up here is willing to produce it, and they build the pipeline along the way. That's that first slide about all the different layers of who does what. That's the way it all started. So if you got an anchor tenant in Grand Forks that said, I'm willing to buy gas for 10 years, somebody build a pipeline. That's my viewpoint.
Mayor Baczynski and Ms. Osowski, I'll just add, the exercise on I-94, I'll call it the route. The state of North Dakota's contribution was up to $500 million, $50 million a year. That was a purchase gap, so they're buying gas before the market responds to that. But they still had an open season. They're trying to get firm commitments, so they're going to have industry come to the table and say, I want this before the pipeline gets built. So you have to have some level of commitment from industry before that happens. In the absence of I know people don't like the word subsidy when it comes to that, but in the absence of that $500 million or $50 million a year, FERC would require you to have the demand for the gas that's being transported. So they're adding value to it. So hopefully there's time for the industry to respond. If there were to be a line coming to Grand Forks from any direction, there would have to be some type of industry commitment, I think, to get that project moving.
I mean, I'm 100% on board with this. I will not be supporting any tax incentives, so just to have the businesses build within our community, but otherwise I support the pipeline. So thank you.
And Mayor Baczynski, I think this is maybe Council President Sandy, as part of our legislative committee, will be an important thing. Right now, the pipeline essentially is going to start up in the Bakken. It's likely going to go past Jamestown and their industrial park that you see along I-94. It's going to end up in Cass County in areas. And so the state of North Dakota is helping direct this. So we're going to have to be persuasive to get that pipeline to move north to us once it hits Cass County. And that's what we're trying to do here. And so we have a redundant line, we have a line for expansion, and we're part of this North Dakota natural gas development. And even though it gets to the east of North Dakota, we're trying to get it to the northeast also and trying to build our own case.
All right, I think I'll just close with, bigger picture. We're at a place now where we're not constrained, but right now we have tremendous capacity in water. We have a great water resource with the Red Lake River, the Red River. We got great egg production in the area. We got great workforce pipeline. I'm going to use that word with UND in Northland. We've got all the things that can help add growth here. Natural gas is the thing we're going to butt up against first, and it's going to be for energy production process, whether heating process in these different industries, and it could also be residential at some point. So this is 5, 10, 20 years out, but this is us trying to get ahead of it rather than being so constrained that it stops everything else. So I appreciate the work. It's not easy doing things that are, future and far out looking, but it's still important work. So appreciate both of your work on this, and let's continue the conversation, continue plowing forward.
Mayor, could I just recognize Barry Wilford from the Chamber? It's been a pleasure to work with Todd and Barry on this, and Todd could have easily asked Barry to come up and share the same information I did. So it's been a real team effort. Thank you.
Yep, thank you. All right, thanks, gents.
Good luck, the new job.
2.5 Grand Forks Housing Study Update.
I'm going to ask Mark Schill to come up here, Mayor Baczynski, members of City Council. Again, a big thanks to the Chamber and Barry Wilford, and also Keith Lund and the EDC. They helped pay, or they did pay for this particular study, and I think it really leads well into it. Council President Sandy is looking at convening later this month or early next month with the housing, and this is really a baseline about where we're at with housing. More to come, but we thought tonight would be a good opportunity for you to kind of get a snapshot of where we're at with housing. And then similar to what we did previous, Barry and Keith, if they wouldn't mind coming up to provide some capstone comments to fill in after Mark gets done. So with that, Mark, thank you for being here.
Mr. Schill, please.
Thank you. Mayor Baczynski, members of council, 8 quick points for you tonight, focusing mostly on multifamily and rentals. First one is the vacancy rate has shifted into pretty clearly a tight market situation. That's also with number 2. Rent growth is pretty much skyrocketed in the last 2 to 4 years in the community. At the same time, construction of multifamily units has been a bit below average in the 2020s. And one of the reasons for that is job growth has been pretty strong to the point where rents are now higher than Fargo. And there's high rental churn in the community. And finally, this is an issue that is economically important to the city in a number of ways, both in terms of workforce, quality of life, upward mobility, and the tax base. And also, Grand Forks also absolutely needs single-family houses. So the first one here, the average vacancy according to the Apartment Association survey is about 6.3% going back to 2008. The most recent number is 3.55 in fourth quarter 2025, but it's been persistently below 4% for four straight quarters, which is unusual for the time that we've got that data. So on the bottom there, you could say that below 6% could be considered tight for vacancy. Below 4%, very tight. Above 8 would be soft. And so looking at that data here back to 2017, it starts in 2017 above 9%, real high. But beginning at around 2022, it drops here below the standard average. And then as of 2024, early 2024, and all of 2025, it gets around that 4% mark. And then 4 straight quarters down here below 4%. So again, pretty clearly low, persistently low. If you go back a few years, the lowest number I saw was about 2.2, but it didn't tend to stay that low very long. So this has been, I think, probably the most sustained period below 4%. Rent growth is high. Since early 2022, it's up. Rent price is up 30%. Rent price is up 19% in the last 2 years, since January 2024. If you look at the metropolitan level, the 2 counties, Grand Forks and Polk County, its rent has grown 3.5 times faster than the national number. So it's really the highest rent growth in the region, essentially, I would say the 3-state region. So looking at that, beginning here in about 2022, rent starts to accelerate. Really in 2024, it takes off pretty quickly. The other thing you see here is there's a seasonal factor here. Rent tends to get soft at the end of the year, sort of low in November, December, and then take off again. So if you look at the same data here in the seasonally adjusted, it's a smooth line, pretty far straight upward. So the median rent here, according to what's advertised on Zillow, is $1,201. Looking at growth, starting in January 2022, again, about 30% here. You can see as compared to everywhere except Williston, pretty high. Rent growth in the Twin Cities metro areas. These are cities. Is low. Fargo's about 20% in 2 years, 21%. The 2-year period where it really accelerated in Grand Forks, 18, 19%, and that's well above most of the other places in the area. These are cities again. Looking at metropolitan areas, again, the 2 counties here compared to the other metropolitan areas. So we're thinking about competitiveness and who may want to move here as they evaluate different places. Here's where we have the 3.5 times bigger than the national average down here, 5.4%. The United States and about 18 in 2 years here in the metro area. So during the same time this has happened, construction has slowed a bit. So looking at HUD studies and other benchmarks, the target for a healthy market might be about 1 or 2% growth per year. Grand Forks, according to the city's parcel database, has added 601 apartment units in the 2020s. And so that's an average of 100 per year. So just comparing, if you were to say targeting 1%, that would be about 666. So it's a little bit below that. 2% target would be about 1,300. Going back 15 years, Grand Forks has averaged 181. Now, there's a lot of ups and downs and heavy swings there, but that's the average. I think 25-year average is about 165 or so. But since 2018, if you were to target that 1%, only 2 of the 8 years have hit that 1% benchmark. But a couple of years have been significantly above that. So as you see here, looking at, again, the year built of the number of units in the parcel database from the city. Here's your 601 in the 6 years in this decade of the 2020s. There's about 2,100 built in the 2010s, 1,400 here. So again, averaging per decade around 2,000, except for the 1990s, which of course, we know what happened that time. Zooming in a bit, year by year, here's your 15-year average of about 180 or so. You can see again, 2022 was a big year, but several other years were low. Nothing in the database in 2024. So the last time that happened was back in the year 2000. So again, major swings. This boom happened in 2013 and 2014 after a couple of really low years. And I do think that was one of the times when the vacancy hit about 2.5%. I think that was around the time just after the city took a strong policy interest in housing at that time. So again, what's important here is to view all these 3 things together. Vacancy has been persistently low, rent is rising really quickly, and then this below average new supply. Importantly, all 3 of these things are pointing in the same direction. Why? Well, one reason is job growth is pretty strong lately. Just looking here at the last 5 years, now of course this includes some rebound post-COVID, but several sectors are doing well and growing. Government, a lot of these are state government jobs with UND coming back online. That was a big reason. There's a lot of jobs lost in the late 2010s in this community in state government. Manufacturing is strong. I think there's a good reason to believe that healthcare is going to be a lot stronger in the region in the next 5 or 10 years as well. So that's a big reason what's driving some of this demand. Rent's higher than Fargo. Right now it's 1201 as we saw. The city of Fargo, it's around 1100 at the 2-county MSA level. A little bit higher in Grand Forks at this point. Now that said, Grand Forks is still lower than a lot of other places. So I think one of the conundrums the community or the market has faced is that rents are rising really quickly, but at 1200, it may not be enough to pencil or make profitable some new developments in the current rate and debt financing environment, right? So what this number is, where it would work, I don't know, whether it's 1500, 1800, something like that. Again, comparing to the metropolitan areas, a similar story. So the U.S. median rent is about $1,900. Another way to look at this is to think about how much income does a renter spend on housing, right? So in the orange here in Grand Forks, your median renter pays about 28% of their income towards housing. You can see here compared to a lot of other places in the state, it's high. So I think, a typical standard would be 30%. Above 30% might be considered cost burdened. So, some may accuse folks, the community of Grand Forks, of being obsessed with Fargo. In this case, the reason why is about competitiveness. If you look here in this graphic, the red side shows based on IRS tax returns, when people leave the Grand Forks County, where do they go? Number 1 place is Cass County. Number 2 place is Clay County. Number 3 is Hennepin. And so again, cost of living, upward mobility, home prices, rent prices in Fargo are relevant to the local market. High rental churn, so about 60%, according to census data, of renters have relocated or changed units between 2020 and 2024. That's pretty high compared to the nation. So in an environment where rent's rising quickly, more households in this community tend to get exposed to that market rise, right? If they're changing units, they have to pay that higher rent. So that exacerbates the problem to some extent. Rental housing is economically important, about $1 billion in tax value, which is key. Again, rising rent prices that decreases disposable income. That's important for local businesses, particularly if you're in hospitality or retail or recreation, those kinds of things that depend on disposable income. And then, of course, from a competitive standpoint, these high prices can constrict an already thin local workforce. So if we look at the tax base, as we saw from Ms. Lazur earlier, there's about $6.4 billion in local tax value in the community, about $1 billion in multifamily buildings. Roughly half, though, number 1 is residential houses. And so one of the critical problems in Grand Forks structurally is the very thin commercial tax base. And so about $1.6 billion in commercial buildings, another $1 billion in multifamily. But again, half or more than half are in homes. And so the residential homeowner in Grand Forks tends to bear a higher share of the burden of paying property taxes than a typical place. Looking at it by year, down here in the last 15 years, there's been about $343 million in new value created in multifamily housing. That's almost 40% of all multifamily housing value. So what has been built recently has contributed, pretty significantly contributed to the tax base. If you look at it by ward, number 1 ward for apartments is Ward 6 with about 3,200. The fewest are Ward 2 and Ward 5. And then sort of evenly distributed. The highest value apartments by tax value are in Ward 5 at about 117 per unit. Another key here is the number of single-family homes that are rented. In Grand Forks, there's about 10,000 total single-family homes. Of that, again, according to the city's database, 768 are rented. It's about a little under 8%. But when you look at it by ward, of course, as you'd expect, quite a few are in Ward 2. So 600 of those are in Ward 2. And this is also a large single-family home ward. And that's about 25% of all homes in Ward 2 are currently being rented. A little bit less in some of the adjacent North End neighborhoods, around 4 or 5%. But then in the South End, it's fairly slim. One key here is the types of houses that tend to be rented, right? So here you have an estimate of the median, the median value of all the property that is owner occupied, single family. Those are about 316,000. Those that are rented are at about 160,000, right? So as you'd expect, the homes that are being rented are in a critical middle to middle lower part of the market, about half the value roughly. One implication for that is, more apartments that would, we know a lot of these are students renting these. More apartments might help relieve some of the pressure in the North End neighborhoods on the single family home rentals. Last piece here is, you hear in the community a lot, we don't need more apartments, we need more houses. It's really a false dichotomy. Both things are true. So looking at the cities from Ms. Lazur, their arm's length transactions, the median sale price was about $295 in 2025. That's $232 a square foot. Both numbers are up pretty considerably, pretty steadily over the last few years. One key, the volume of transactions. So these are transactions that are listed that hit the market that the assessor's office determines to be quote unquote arm's length. And so basically the volume of sales have been cut in half at around 330 or so in the last few years compared to the high 600s prior to 2020. So if you take this 325 divided by 12, there's about 29 transactions a month. Earlier today, there were 63 listings of houses, condos, and townhouses. So that means there's about 2.2 months worth of supply, which by any account would be considered low. I think you often hear 6 months of inventory would be good. 6 months in this case would be about 170 listings, and Grand Forks would be a quote unquote more stable, healthy number. Home price growth, again, really since early 2024, again, the same story you see in the rentals, up significantly. Broken by tier, here's the same line, median. This is about the 20th percentile home and the 80th percentile home in the Grand Forks City. Similar trends for each, up significantly in the last 2 years. Compared to the other communities, here's the Grand Forks line, a little bit steeper slope, growing a little bit more quickly than Fargo, West Fargo, and Bismarck. Again, at the metropolitan level, the two counties, the 1 year home price growth was leading the region, 6.4% in Grand Forks, very soft nationally in the last year, 0.2% national home price growth. And so again, another key takeaway, this entire region is outperforming the rest of the country, but Grand Forks is at the metro level is seeing some of the highest growth. Looking at, again, this particular 2 year window where prices have exploded, Grand Forks is at the top there, about 4 times faster than the US average of 3% growth. Similar story to the apartment piece, still not to the point where it's pricing ourselves out of, the market. Here's the national number median of 361. Grand Forks is about 100K lower than that, but starting to approach some of these. And then finally, I think as we saw with, you feel for the folks with the protesting at the Board of Equalization, here we're looking at those same tiers, the median and lower tier in Grand Forks in a couple of years here, it's really 2 year growth is leading the region in middle to middle lower homes are up significantly, up higher than really anywhere else across this part of North Dakota and Minnesota. So it really shows. Critically, though, these home price trends align really closely with the demand on rentals as well. So again, it's pretty clear in those top 3 metrics aligning that the rental market's tight. Big reason for that's the job growth, and at the same time, you're seeing a very similar pattern in single-family homes. With that, happy to take any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Schill? I think there's some positives and there's some tough parts too. Obviously, we have a growing community that people want to move to, which is Gary, Indiana. Their house prices are going down because nobody wants to live there. That's not happening here, so that's a positive. But with that being said, if you own a home, the value is going up. If you're trying to get into home ownership, you're in rentals, you're really squeezed, particularly when inflation's hitting you on the other side too. Any questions for Mr. Schill? It was so good you left us speechless. So I guess that's all we'll need from you tonight. Did you have anything else to add to that, Mr.
I don't know
Schill?
if Keith or Barry, on behalf of the EDC or Chamber, had any additions. Number one, I want to thank, they help support the funding for this that I think we can all use as a community. So thanks to your organizations.
Hit the microphone. Yep. Barry Welfer with the Chamber. When our board talked about housing We really looked at this study and partnering with the EDC and funding the study for really three reasons. I think, first of all, you look at how tight housing has become in our community. We were hopeful that getting this really detailed, well-documented information out would help developers look at the opportunities that are in our community to invest in additional housing and make some investments in our community. And I think that this type of data will certainly help them do that. And then number two, the city council and other units of government have some levers that they can pull. I think 10, 12 years ago, when the city made some timing moves on its special assessments, and I think some of those things really helped from a making lots available perspective. There are some additional levers the city council could do in the rental and also in the single family home area. And I'm hopeful that Council President Sandy, I understand, may be considering having a blue ribbon task force on housing that would be put together, and we would look forward as a business community to participating in that. Because there's certainly, I think just these numbers show that it really merits taking a deeper dive into this whole housing issue as a community. And then number three, at the Chamber's annual meeting in January, one of the priorities that the governor laid out was his interest in doing something this upcoming session related to housing. And I think having this data and this baseline information and having our community going through the process of really looking at this with some real depth will prepare us for the 27 legislative session and whatever may be talked about and testified on and come out of that session. So those were really the three reasons the chamber really felt that this was critical to be involved in. And thank Mr. Schill, the EDC, and also the city administrator and the mayor and others for helping participate in this. So thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. All right. Any other questions or thoughts?
I'm just
Mr.
thanks
Dean.
for getting this information. I think we've been talking about it for a while, and I'm glad everybody got together and gives us a little bit better information as we plan for the future. And just want to reach out. Thanks.
Yeah, Mayor, I was just going to add one thought on the vacancy rates. There's been a lot of debate about what the vacancy rates are and whose numbers you can believe and who you can't. Fact is, I appreciate that we're using the same group's vacancy rates over time to show how things have changed. Doesn't matter if the numbers are exactly right. The trends are very relevant, and I appreciate that, Mr. Schill, and looking forward to working more with you here in the coming days.
All right. Thank you.
I have a quick question.
Oh, we caught him before the buzzer. All right, Ms. Osowski, please.
Who paid for this study? Was it the chamber and the EDC, not the city of Grand Forks?
Correct.
Didn't pay for this. Okay. So recently, probably within the past 2 years, we've had multiple studies on and presentations given on this exact same information. So I'm just kind of wondering how many, and obviously we didn't pay for this as a city, but how many different, studies we're going to perform and how many different times we're going to get the same info kind of just presented by someone else.
I guess I can answer that. It depends how often do you want it. I think it was pretty nice that we didn't have to pay for this one.
Well, I think it's great that we don't have to pay for this one, but I know
it's
we
pretty
paid
comprehensive, and I think
for
it's important.
others. And so I'm just wondering how many more different studies we're going to get done on the exact same thing.
Well, the data changes. I mean, if we're making the data, driven decisions, I think we'll have to update it as we go. I mean, that's pretty normal. If someone else wants to keep paying for it, I think we follow that track.
I agree with that. I hope Barry continues to pay. So.
Perfect. All right, thank you. Well, that's it for item 2. We'll move on to item 3, public hearings and second reading of ordinances.
3.1, determination of protest for project number 9010.1 through 4, districts number 799.1 through 4, 2026 mill and overlay. We have received no protests in finance on any of these. I can read all through of them, or 3 of them here before we open the public hearing. The first one, project 9050, district 797, reconstruct 5th Avenue South, Demers Avenue to Washington Street. The second, project number 9060, District 798, reconstruct 17th Avenue South, South Columbia Road to South 20th Street. And the third, projects 8850.02, District 801, South 34th Street, paving and streetlights, 45th to 47th Avenue South.
All right, thank you. I'm going to just open the public hearing for all three. So if it's 3.1 A, B, or C, if you want to speak, please come up. Mr. Lipsch, please.
Thank you, Mayor Buczynski, President Sandy, council members. My name is Chris Lipsch. I live over at 4299 Crystal Drive. If some of you may know who I am, I've recently moved here from Grafton. I served 14 years on the city council in Grafton, so I'm envious of all of you from sitting up there and listening to these wonderful things going on today, getting my civic leadership juices flowing again. Maybe a glutton for punishment. So I'm here to talk, not to be in protest of specific District 801 Project 8850.02, but I am here to talk about, first of all, a hardship that I had suffered through researching this project. There's a little bit of bureaucratic inertia, maybe a little bit of red tape, because when I was trying to find details about the project of 34th Street that is west of Discovery to go all the way to 47th, that was difficult. I do have to say, I'm not speaking negatively about any one of the staff or any one of the departments because they were all so awesome to work with. But I am speaking more so about how I got directed in so many different directions. Instead of one-stop shop trying to figure things out. Granted, I know Grand Forks is a large community and there's a lot of moving parts. But a little bit of history here. I'm speaking specifically of 34th Street from 40th Avenue, where the roundabout is, west of Discovery, all the way. That's going to the brand new 47th Street or 47th Avenue interchange. That's coming off of I-29. But this project specifically is only paving 34th from 45th to 47th. There's a little bit of history. I did speak to a couple of the community members that are living over in that area. There's a few of them that were said that they were led to believe that that road was not going to be a through street. I find that hard to believe because even in my research, I could find that there was conceptual and a plan, a master plan that was put out there. But there was no real details that was speaking of the intersection of 34th and 47th. So, you know, the current situation that is going on over at Discovery, and I have to go back 4 years because I was teasing with the mayor about the drag race and Discovery families that were driving by my house, that because I live right on the corner of Crystal and 43rd. And thankfully they put a speed sign in there, but when I've been mowing lawn, I've seen it register 50 miles an hour. So from Columbia to my house, which is approximately a block and a half, people are getting to 50 miles an hour to get to the school to pick their kid up. Let's remind you, at between 2 and 2:30 when school lets out at 3:15. So I have some intimate knowledge about that stretch. But then when I've been talking to the people over from 44th, 45th, 46th, or over 44th mainly, those areas, folks are seeing the construction and what's going to be going on over there. But people were still wondering, how is that going to get all the way through? So in my research, I found that where we're at today is there's a good project planned. I'm not saying that the project needs to be stopped. I'm not trying to protest it out. I think it's a really good project. I spoke with planning and zoning, Mr. Rooks, and I do not want to get in the way of anything that's going on there because, as you just heard, the housing study, there needs to be homes. And there's, I think, 16 or 12 homes that are supposed to be going over there or even more. But I do want to go back to something that the mayor said earlier, that you guys in the city have dealt with this so many different times. And I think you're at a point right now to maybe make a decision on this project so you're not having to relive this problem that you're reliving at Phoenix Elementary, at Schrader Elementary, at Kelly, at Lewis and Clark, where you have I think it's called a classified road going right next to a school. Granted, when you talk to engineering, they're really good at building roads, and they really do want that classified road going to a school. But when there's a lack of enforcement and there's a lack of controls that are going on around those schools, and you have people parking in the middle of the road when they're picking up and dropping off their kids, there's a safety factor. And I know you've all heard it at every one of those locations that I just announced or just spoke of, because I've been paying attention to your guys' city council meetings for the last 4 years. And I know safety is on everybody's radar. So your engineering, like I said, is top notch. They're doing a really good job of putting together a road that's going to go from A to B, 40th to 47th, But from what I've learned so far, and you guys will learn from the project, there's no stoplight that's going in on 47th to control from 47th to 34th. Granted, putting stoplights everywhere and stop signs everywhere, I know from being on a city council, that's not the answer. But actually designing that intersection could help minimize or slow down the traffic or do something to prevent the excess traffic going north from 47th to 40th through the roundabout, going to get their coffee brew or their 2x4 at the big boxes down that way. Because we all know coming off of the interstate, you're going to choose the path of least resistance. And if you only have one light and no other stop signs from 47th interchange and I-29 to those two places that I was alluding to, I'm pretty sure that people are going to start taking that route. So what I would strongly encourage is, I don't think that this project needs to be stopped, but I think there needs to be more foresight to look forward so you don't have this problem coming back like you've had Phoenix, like you've had Kelly, like you've had, Schrader, and all of these different schools. Make the change now so you don't have to worry about it later. And I think when you look at it, the conceptual report that came from Bolton and Mank from December 27th of 2023, there was 3 options. One of the options has been kicked out, and that is I think it's the stoplight or the fully controlled intersection, because you can't have that according to the DOT rules. Now the other project is looking at 3/4 of an interchange, which I don't think that's going to minimize or slow down the traffic coming off of the interstate. I've said it to a couple of different people. Being on city council before, I had to work with some engineers, and they told me about velocitation. And velocitation is when somebody's driving at 80 miles an hour on an interstate and they come off of the interstate and they come on to 47th. Now they don't know or realize they're not going to be able to drive down to 35, 40, 25, 20 in a school zone. I don't know if that velocitation or that factor is being even considered when you're coming down 47th. You're going to go right past the 38th, which is going to be a controlled structure, but you're going past 38th to 34th, then going north to your desired location. I'm not saying everyone's going to be doing that, because 38th might be the most desired off-ramp off of the interstate, but we are going to have more traffic in that area. So what's the solution? I wish I had the big brains like the people at your engineering departments have. I don't have the answer for this, but I do know that the concept report did suggest a right in, right out, or the 3/4, and I think the 3/4 intersection is going to be pushed forward. I think the right in and right out would be the better option. Ultimately, the best option in my view would be no interchange there and have 38th and 30th, but that would be stopping progress, and I don't want to be that person. Thank you for your time, and I do stand for any questions.
Thank you. All right, anybody else for the public hearing, item 3.1, either A, B, or C? All right, we'll close the public hearing portion and I'll open up to council for thoughts, motions, comments, whatever they please. Ms. Osowski.
Yeah, I think we should look into what that guy said and make sure that, we're doing the right thing, I guess, around a school. We do have some issues with more the North End elementary older schools. And so I guess I would like to see those issues addressed or looked into. I'm not 100% sure about the project, but I support the project, but I'm not that familiar with it. I haven't looked into it too much, but I do think that the children should be safe. So if we could do our due diligence on that, I guess.
So it's the second reading, so this would be the final hearing for it tonight. I don't know if Christian or Mr. Danielson or Mr. Grasser wants to touch on this subject where we got today. I know it's been a lot of concepts over the years and a lot of work to get to where it is today. Maybe give us some background on how we got to today.
Good evening, Mayor, members of City Council. Boy, it's hard to, when you start looking back in the past, I'm going to go back before the interchange itself was at least approved on the last studies that we did 2 or 3 years ago with the DOT. I think everybody assumed and figured the roads that are coming south, namely Columbia Road, 34th Street, and 38th Street, will basically keep going south and mirror what's going on 32nd Avenue South. So you've got a traffic signal on 38th, got traffic signal on 34th, you've got actually a traffic signal on 30th and another one on, on Columbia Road. We tend to put signals in a little more often than maybe the textbook traffic engineering would suggest. So with that, again, it was originally envisioned, I think, on engineering and the MPO, and there's no detailed drawings that really get into those traffic signal designs when you're 20 years out or 10 years out, even sometimes 5 years out. But anyway, I think everybody would have assumed that those, again, those signalizations would occur, as I just got done talking about. When the fast forward then or reverse back to about 3 years ago, when the DOT really got into the study on the 47th interchange, and I will mention this interchange thing goes back decades, literally, when some of those original concepts came about. When the DOT came in, they said, we're going to get pretty strict here on where we have signalized intersections coming off of interchanges, actually any place. And so that's when we really learned, I think, as a community, that said the DOT essentially would have liked to have had the signalization at 34th Street, because that would have given the more optimum distance they were looking at from the interchange and split between Columbia Road and the interstate. If you remember, we pushed back on that. We said, we don't think we really want to go that far down the line for our first intersection. We were successful in getting the DOT to work more towards what they consider their very minimum spacing for the first signalized intersection, and that was 38th Street. And then they said, in between there really wasn't enough space then to put another signalized intersection, all the way to Columbia Road, because obviously you had Columbia Road signalized. And yeah, they looked at different concepts about right in, right out, different spacings. Right in, right out doesn't need quite as many spacing between them as a 3/4 does. And again, reminding, a 3/4 allows a right in, right out, and a left in. It prevents the through traffic from that would be going across the street. So what we ended up landing on with the IJR, that Interstate Justification Report, and some of those studies, was the signal on 38th, the 3/4 on 34th Street. And we did that, again, we didn't want that to be an open intersection because of the traffic potential for the school, et cetera. There's a pedestrian, going to be a pedestrian walkway at about 32nd Street. And then there will be another 3/4 at 30th Street. Sorry, if you aren't looking at a map, basically I'm walking everybody back towards Columbia Road. So we've got a series of 3/4 intersections, and that's been important for the development concept. As people are going to be developing and allowing access along the way. It's kind of a compromise, I guess, in my mind, on the 3/4 intersection versus the full intersections, and that's kind of where we're at today. We have invested. The classification system is important. It's your main roads are on the section lines. That would be like Columbia, Washington, et cetera. 38th kind of is, except that the interstate took up the actual section line. I'm probably doing a little bit too much rambling, but I'm giving you a lot of background. Anyway, we are where we're at. The city paid 80% of the cost of 34th Street because we recognize that was planned to be a through street, and actually planned on going through 47th and on south. Quite frankly, in some of our last concepts, as we've talked about staff, I think 38th Street's going to continue south. 34th Street, I'm not sure that we will fund that as a classified street, because it's going to be cut off from going through on 47th, and it's essentially going to be cut off going south at Merrifield Road. I think some of the same things. So that's another discussion, but it just points out that I think we are looking at the traffic on 34th Street probably carrying less traffic than we had originally thought, 20 years ago. Again, just because of how that would have carried multiple miles of traffic back and forth. That's getting cut off now on 47th.
So longer term, not having it signalized means you're not going to have north-south traffic on there. You can't go left if you're heading south. So long term, you're not going to pick up anything south of 47th on that route.
Not a through.
So that's where you ended up
not
with the
straight
3/4. Okay.
The schools, that's a problem no matter where it's at. The parents tend to overwhelm the streets. There's only so much, I think, enforcement you can practically do there. When I know we have been on Discovery, I know they tried to get in much more drop-off parking there, and there is quite a bit more drop-off parking than a lot of the schools. It's still not enough. You've got those peaks. You got that 15-minute craziness on either end, and sometimes there's people parking out on the street for. It's amazing how early sometimes people will park to get on the street. Nobody's come up with a solid answer for that. I can give you the easy answer from engineering is don't put them on those classified streets. I do that tongue in cheek because they need those classified streets to get the buses and some of that relatively easy access to the schools. So I think it's a compromise. We need to live with what we live with, and I mean it's been functioning. I think the actions we've taken on 47th with 34th Street are reasonable and prudent, and have cut down from what I would have originally thought. If you'd asked me 10 years ago. I think there's going to be less traffic on there now, I think, than what I had originally envisioned.
I will point out, I'm not going to give it away completely, but other than being the city engineer, I do see Mr. Grasser's parcel listed on this. So you're pretty darn close to this intersection. So you got a pretty good feel for it, huh? No comment.
Mr.
President
Grasser,
Sandy.
before you wander away, are we doing right turn lanes on all of these intersections?
Believe so. I mean, right now we're only building up to 34th Street, but we are set up. I mean, we're envisioning those that we are building. We're building right turn lanes. Those that we're envisioning are going to have right turn lanes. Certainly all the signalized intersections.
There's only one signalized intersection, but there are 3 intersections. I want to make sure we're putting in the right turn lanes.
Some of the other ones, I'm going to have to. Are we getting at every single one? I hate to make an absolute comment.
This is his last time in front of council too, so he's got a perfect record in 30 years. Don't blow it on the last one.
All the right turn lanes will be there.
Thank you.
47.
Very good. That's excellent.
Okay.
All right. Any other comments? Otherwise, we'll look for action on item 3.1. Got a motion to approve from President Sandy. Do we got a second? Second from Veen. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Okay, item 4, citizen comments. Any comments this evening, Ms. Lundmark?
I have 2. Jody Lemke.
Mr. Lemke, please.
Good evening, Mayor.
I think we got it. We're gonna have you over at that one. We got you.
Working?
Go to the other.
Why?
That's the protocol. If I don't follow it, then I'll hear it from these guys. So.
All right. Good evening, Mayor, Council. Just a couple concerns about property assessments in the city here. And I'm a little nervous, but so when the elected officials get their assessments done by the Department of Assessment, I think that's a little bit of conflict of interest, and maybe you should look at a third party. I mean, it's just my thought, not saying there is any conflict or anything, but there could be. And also when a property tax exemption of improvement. So when somebody applies for that, the council votes on that, correct? And so I'm there too. If it's an elected official, maybe it should be a third party. And not, I mean, but that might be century code where the city council does it. I'm trying to read off the thing I got from the assessor's office. So, and then there's a few other concerns I had with the assessing process, and I've had some meetings with Tammy, so she's 65% transparent. That's my thought. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Andrew Krausdick.
Mr. Krausnick, please.
Thank you. I'm here tonight to talk about the 2 pilot requests for CK Commercial in the domain, asking for 5-year 90% pilots. This would equate to almost $2 million in property tax savings for the domain to build a very large, high-end luxury apartment complex with amenities. I emailed you all the drawing from the neighborhood meeting. The domain shows 2 golf simulators, 4 bowling lanes, an indoor pickleball court, an indoor basketball court, and an indoor fitness center, plus outdoor pickleball courts, putting green, cornhole, and ample hangout space. Take all those amenities, build out costs, space, maintenance expense over 5 years. That's going to add up to probably more than $2 million. Why are you considering giving them nearly a $2 million tax exemption? You say the public purpose for these tax incentives is housing. You haven't objectively proven there is a need. But if there truly is, it doesn't mean you should approve these with all the extra amenities that compete with businesses like mine. Cut out the amenities and then you don't need the incentive. Or do they need the incentive because they need a competitive advantage to pull renters from other complexes? How is that fair to all other apartment owners? Dakota Commercial would have over 60% of my golf simulator capacity covered with their tax incentivized projects if you approve this. Add these 2 to the 3 in Memorial Village, which is milking a 20-year incentive. And yes, this is competition. It's unfair competition. Did you ask Mr. Gosted about the Southern Valley, North Dakota Supreme Court case I brought up in the last public hearing in relation to adding in clauses to exclude things like golf simulators? He chimes in when it helps your objectives, but he doesn't chime in when it may give credence to a public comment. A great example is when Mr. Wagle stated at the last meeting that anyone could go online and see who owns an LLC. That's incorrect. Why didn't Mr. Gosted correct him? There is no visibility to LLC ownership or investors. All we see on the Secretary of State site is who the registered agent is. Mr. Ritterman is the registered agent for the Beacon. It doesn't mean he's responsible for the debacle of Epic. You most certainly can add a clause so they cannot include golf simulators or other competing amenities. Why are you okay with competing with Albatross, Red Ray Lanes, Play at Pickleball, All True Sports Complex, Shoot 360, Choice Fitness, and all other fitness centers? CK Commercial appears different, maybe limited or no amenities, but don't sell it as a low-income project. Despite Mr. Phelan's request of Baker Tilly to adjust the narrative from the original report to the now posted revised report, there still appear to be only 9 affordable low or near low-income units of the 45. Mr. Wagle asked Mr. Ritterman during the last meeting if he'd build these if he didn't have the incentives. Sounded like he said no. That's good enough for you guys? That's how you call bluffs? Ask your poker opponent if he has pocket aces. He says yes and you fold. Until you guys shut off the tax incentive faucet, why would any of these guys say they can build without when it means they lose out on millions of dollars? Please join Ms. Osowski and start saying no to these unfair tax incentives.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Krausnick. I got to cut you off there.
Thank you.
That's all I have tonight.
All right. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to.
There was one comment submitted online.
Okay.
That's on the
Council get a
website.
chance to see that. All right, perfect. Thank you. Move on to action items. I know 521, I was going to pull any other items council wants pulled for further discussion.
510, 516, 518, 519, and or when we vote on 520, we're just going to postpone, correct? So that'll just be like if we vote yes on that, we'll just postpone.
Yeah, we probably wouldn't take any action on 520.
Okay, then it can just stay in there if we're just going to postpone it.
Well, right now, everybody's okay with postponing 520, so we won't take any action. We'll list that as we won't vote on that. So.
Oh, we're not going to vote on it?
No.
Oh, okay. Then just 510, 16, 18, and 19, please.
510, 516, 518, 519. Perfect. Any other ones council wants pulled for more discussion this evening? All right. Look for a motion then to approve items 5.1, 5.2, 5.3, 5.4, 5.5, 5.6, 5.7, 5.8, 5.9, 5.11, 5.12, 5.13, 5.14, 5.15, 5.17. And that would be the list.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve for Ms. Byrd. Do we have a second? Second from President Sandy. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Why don't we just have a quick vote on 520 to postpone that, then we'll get to the list. Everyone's okay with that? Just to
I
make it-
motion to postpone 520.
Perfect. We got a motion from Osowski, second from Berg. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Just to clean that up, so we would have Ms. Dorset 5.10, 5.16, 5.19, and 5.21.
0.18. I pulled 18 and 19.
5.10, 16, 18, 19, and 21.
21, perfect.
Thank you.
All right, 5.10, plans and specs for project 9064, District 800, paving 27th Avenue North, North Washington to North 36th Street.
Thank you. Any comments or just ready to
I'm
vote?
ready to vote.
All right. Motion approved from Berg, second from Vice President Weigel. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Motion carries 6-1 with Osowski dissenting.
5.16, bid award, project 9106, MSW solid waste landfill soil treatment pad construction.
All right, Mr.
Questionnaires attached.
I just have a quick question.
Yeah, maybe if you
Give some
wouldn't mind.
color first, Mr.
Yeah.
Fiona. Thank you.
Mayor Buchansky, members of the City Council, thanks for pulling it, Ms. Osowski. This evening, I've asked Jackson Bratcher to kind of give you the standard on what we're calling the lowest and most responsible bidder. And then I would ask Sharon, she's the author of the staff report and the recommendation to go with the second low bidder in this case. And I just introduced myself to Cordell from Dirty Deeds Dirt Work, and he would also like to speak. So if we could have Jackson go first, and then Sharon, and then Cordell would also like to speak on behalf of Dirty Deeds Dirt Work. So that was how I was going to plan to choreograph, if that's okay with the City Council. And ultimately, we're looking for your review and and final opinion on the situation.
That works for me, unless anyone's got any real objections to that. Sounds like a good plan. So, Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. So as Mr. Phelan said, I am going to defer to Ms. Lipsch on the actual staff recommendation, but we thought it would be helpful to provide a kind of standard and a quick review on what the Century Code tells us about the lowest responsible bidder. So in the context of awarding bids, the Century Code, specifically 48-01.2-07, provides that the governing body shall award the contract to the lowest responsible bidder. I believe the city received 6 bids on this project, so the city's decision tonight is to award the project to the lowest responsible bidder. And what the Century Code further tells us about the lowest responsible bidder is that it means the lowest best bidder for the project, considering past experience, financial condition, past work with the governing body, and other pertinent attributes that may be identified in the advertisement for bids. So essentially what this means is that the bid doesn't necessarily need to be the lowest bidder in terms of dollar amounts, but instead the lowest responsible bidder. And as indicated in that statutory definition, the lowest responsible bidder allows consideration of numerous factors. And this has been further expanded on by the North Dakota Supreme Court and the North Dakota Attorney General, who have done deeper dives on what that phrase means. And in some of those opinions and cases, one being Bockel Builders, Inc. v. County of Grand Forks, the court held that things such as ability, skill, reputation, integrity, experience, efficiency, and capacity of a bidder can also be contemplated when awarding a bid. So that's basically the relevant standard. Unless anybody has any questions about that definition further, I will defer to Ms. Lipsch regarding the staff recommended action here.
Any question on the legal opinion? All right. Ms. Lipsch. Mr. Bean, please.
Will you again repeat the Century Code number for that?
Yes, so the general authority is 48-01.2-07, which provides that the governing body shall award the contract to the lowest responsible bidder. And then section 48-01.2-01, subsection 19, defines what the lowest responsible bidder means.
All right. Ms. Lipsch.
All right. Good evening, Mayor Buchinsky and council members. The item before you is to award the bid for project 9106, which is the construction of a soil treatment pad, soil treatment storage area, and roadway at the city's landfill. The project size is roughly 12 acres. The project is important for landfill operations. It will allow us to treat hydrocarbon contaminated soil so that they can be reused as cover materials, which help maintains regulatory compliance with the DEQ and not only improves our long-term landfill capacity, but also creates additional revenue as there is a disposal fee for this material. We received 6 bids, as previously stated, ranging from $429,000 to approximately $723,000. The apparent low bidder was Dirty Deeds Dirt Work at $429,000, with Gowan Construction as a second low bidder at $480,071.90. The engineer's estimate was $822,600, and $850,000 was in the 2026 budget. Under North Dakota law, as just discussed, the city is required to award to the lowest bidder, not simply the lowest price. Based on guidance from the city attorney, staff evaluated both cost and bidder responsibility. We issued a follow-up questionnaire to the 2 lowest bidders to better understand their experience, capacity, and ability to meet the project requirements. Through that process, and in talking with city project managers, staff identified concerns with the apparent low bidder related to past project performance, including mobilization, understanding of plans and specifications, and project timelines. The project examples provided were not comparable in size, scope, or regulatory complexity to this landfill project. It is imperative that this project is constructed as per the plans and specifications that Burns and McDonnell designed, as the city's solid waste operating permit and soil treatment plan have very specific regulations related to the construction and operation of the soil treatment pad and storage area. These have previously been approved by the DEQ. Gowan Construction, the project involves environmental compliance, erosion control, and documentation requirements associated with permitted landfill site. So experience and capacity are particularly important. The contractor will be operating under the city's SWIP permit and within the landfill operating permit. Gowan Construction has demonstrated experience with similar projects, as well as staffing, equipment, and processes needed to meet those requirements. The difference between the 2 bids is $51,000, or about 12%. Staff determined this price does not outweigh the risks associated with contractor performance or project delivery. Based on that evaluation, staff recommends awarding the contract to Gowan Construction as the lowest responsible bidder in the amount of $480,071.90. This recommendation is based on selecting the contractor best positioned to successfully deliver the project with the least risk to the city. I'll stand for any questions.
All right, any questions for Ms. Lipsch? So, Ms. Lipsch, I guess, ultimately, the city council is going to have to make the decision if that lowest bid wasn't, a responsible bid. I think that's what this comes down to. I know the answer to this, but I'm just going to say it or ask it anyway so you can answer it. Obviously, we had 850,000 bids, so all the bids are significantly lower than what we had estimated on this. If there was one bid that was 900,000 and one bid that was 850, would you have the same answer that you have today?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Ms. Lipsch? All right, Mr. Phelan? How's it going? How do we say your last name?
Wimpheimer.
Wimpheimer. All right,
Yep.
Mr. Wimpheimer, please.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. I just rushed over here from a job site, so I didn't have much time to prepare, so I'm going to be going off the top of my head here. But as far as the thing stated, first thing I want to say for Gowans is they do tremendous work, obviously. I can't say anything against them as a contractor. They are obviously a very substantial contractor to the state of North Dakota, and have nothing bad to say about them. As far as we go, and the questionnaire and the concerns that may be upon us for whether or not we can complete the work. In the past, we have done other projects for you guys. We did the flood wall repair, did an outfall repair, did some concrete spalling repair for you guys. Another thing we've done for counties like Cass County and Pembina County is we've constructed bridges on their county roads. And we've taken care of legal drains We've done a lot of different work anyway. And the concern that's being claimed is we don't have the experience to take this on. I personally disagree with that. I have worked for other companies in the past that have taken on landfill, soil pad, gradation work. And a lot of my operators too have had experience with other companies doing this similar line of work. One of the big things, my big issues with the questionnaire that was done was none of the references that I had given were contacted whatsoever. I had confirmed that earlier today. And another thing in the report was it made us look really bad. And after doing some research, I found out that from other city engineers, that isn't exactly what they had stated about us. A lot of your city engineers have been very happy with the work we've done in the past. We might have had a couple hiccups here and there. That's natural with job sites. But overall, if you look at your storm sewer repair job we did on the Greenway, I think you'd be very pleased to see how that turned out, especially with the challenges we were facing. Another thing, this doesn't have anything really to do with experience, so to speak. And I hate bringing this up, but this has more so to do with my dad, who owned a different construction company 10 years ago. And some weather events on a box culvert he was doing in Walsh County, which it rained nonstop every day. He had shut down that river. 2 tornadoes went through that job site, and even Wanzik's crane got struck by lightning and fried out the whole wiring system. And Wanzik's had to have a crew come out and put a whole new wiring system that took like 4 to 5 days to repair that crane. This put us way back past the deadline of that job. However, if you go on County Road 9 in Walsh County, you'll see that box culvert standing today, and it's doing great. However, this created a quarrel between Sharon and my father, and I feel like this beef, so to speak, that's happening between them is what's motivating the decision to not give us this work, more so than lack of experience. That's mostly what I have to say about it. I would ask to be given a chance to prove to you guys the quality work we could do for your city. As in the past, we have done other work for you guys that has turned out really well. And I guess that's what I have to say about that.
Any questions from council? President Sandy, please.
Thanks for coming tonight. So you're thoroughly confident that you can do this job?
I am extremely confident.
And if it doesn't go well, that you don't get another job with the city of Grand Forks?
I totally agree with that.
I can't say that we can do that because legally I can't, but I'm just saying that it won't look good for you if things don't go well.
Right. I can guarantee you that we will get this project done for you guys. We have taken on much more complicated projects in the past. And I have all sorts of, like I said in my questionnaires, I had all sorts of references, notable references too, to back that up. They just were never contacted.
Any other questions? Mr. Weigel, please. Vice President Weigel.
I got a question for Ms. Lipsch. Can you talk to us about the references that were contacted either by yourself or others?
Yes, Mayor Boczynski and Council Member Weigel, I did contact several of the references. I contacted the 2 city managers, project managers, who were on the outfall project and on the flood wall repair project. I talked to Devin in Pembina County. Let me see, I gotta find my notes here. Just take me 1 second. And I talked to the engineer on the other project he referenced, the Walhalla City project. I talked to Dan Fisher. He was the engineer on that project. And that was actually a 400-foot long riverbank stabilization, according to Mr. Fisher. And Devin with Pembina County said that most of the jobs they have ever done have been bridge projects for that county or box culvert work. I guess being that Mr. Wimpheimer brought up his father's not even listed on this project. When I sent out the questionnaire, I asked for who would be on the project, and he's not even listed on the project. He has himself and I believe his brother listed on the project as staff. So he didn't even list his father. I talked to him earlier and explained the situation that I was going to make the recommendation to City Council to award to Gowan Construction based upon experience, because he hasn't listed any landfill experience working in a landfill with the regulations and the things that we have to follow. Safety is not most importance, obviously, but I think Todd can attest to this. I treat everybody fairly. The past is the past. I can't change what happened on that project in Walsh County, but I hold no grudges towards either of them. Had good conversations with both Dan Hansen and Christian Danielson, who were on the city projects, and they're the ones that pointed out some of the issues. Not bringing enough equipment to the site, not being able to keep the equipment running on the site. Arguments about methodologies of how they wanted to construct the project versus how it was designed to be constructed. So those are very concerning from a regulatory standpoint, that this project was designed specifically to meet the regulations spelled out by the DEQ and the EPA. We have to follow those. We have to ensure that those are right. Otherwise, we could build a project and not get it permitted and then be out $500,000 because we can't use it. It's not as, I mean, we had several bidders. I don't know how many times a very reputable dirt moving company was in Carmen's office asking questions about the plans and specifications. We didn't have a single question from Dirty Deeds Construction. So I have a lot of concerns.
Satisfy you, Mr. Weigel?
It does. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Lipsch. All right, why don't you can go ahead and sit down. We'll discuss up. You don't have to stand there, but do you have you could, sure. You can go ahead wherever you want to go.
A few things were on.
Hit the button there. There you go.
I did call Carmen. I've spoken to her. I had questions about this project before I even put a bid in, because I want to know what I'm getting into with the project. You know, obviously we have a Class A contractor's license. We're bid bonded. If something goes wrong and we can't complete the job, that totally falls on us and our bonding company. So I did make a phone call and I did have a series of questions I did ask Carmen. Actually, my wife was right next to me that day I did that. As far as all the people, I had called all my people I had as references, and they told me that they had not heard from Sharon yet. And I do truly believe, Sharon, that this has more so to do with what you and my father's falling out was than with what anything ever to do with me. So thank you.
Honestly, I would love to take the chance and award the project to the low bidder, but there's too much at stake. Like, we have the 42nd Avenue, we get the 42nd Street project coming up that we can have the capacity to take a lot of that contaminated material at our own landfill, but right now we can't.
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna have you sit down now. Go ahead.
One more statement,
you got 15 seconds, and we're not having a debate, so go ahead.
As far as that outfall repair, we had 4 excavators on it, a bulldozer, several dump trucks, and 2 skid steers on it. So as far as not bringing enough equipment, I guess you could bring more, but then it'd just be kind of like a car show. You just have it lined up as a showpiece. So,
all right. Thank you, Ms. Lipsch. If we have further questions, we'll bring you back up. But for now, let's have a discussion. Did you have a question for either?
Oh, I was ready to make a motion. Upon reviewing the material, what was their company? Dirty Deeds didn't answer all the questions. And so in that itself, I have concerns. And so I'd motion to go with staff recommendation.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the staff recommendation. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second for Mr. Weigel. Now we'll open up for further discussion. President Sandy, please.
I probably have a series of rhetorical questions. How does a new contractor get experience to get jobs for the city of Grand Forks if they're not hired by the city of Grand Forks? At what point do we try to help the local contractors? I'm not saying Gowan and the others aren't, but I don't know. I can't argue your comments, Ms. Berg. They didn't. It feels like a perfect storm of nothing working right on this bid project. So I would like to see us award it to the lowest bidder myself, because I'd like to give them the opportunity to do a job and prove themselves. However, with Ms. Lipsch saying that this is one of those there's too much at risk, you can't argue against what she's saying. So I certainly hope that you respond to future RFPs and you're the lowest bidder so we can get you hired and get you more business. So thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, President Sandy. Yep, what's that? Yep, please.
Mr. Friedel.
Oh, Mr. Friedolfs.
I just wanted to say real quick, I appreciate him coming in and pleading the case on this. I did review the material too, and he did send me a bunch of photos of some of the other work, but definitely not in the scope of landfill fixing. So, but I applaud him for coming in and continue to fight the good fight and continue to bid on jobs. Please don't stop.
Thank you, Mr. Friedolfs. Any other points? Thank you for helping. I didn't see that hand up there. Any other comments or questions from council? All right, seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 6-1 with Lunsky dissenting.
5.18 is the set of public hearing application for tax incentive, a pilot from CK Commercial LLC, doing business as Kingsview, located at 6150 Kingsview Drive.
All right, thank you. Ms. Osowski, do you have a comment?
Yeah, I just have a quick comment. It's really hard to sit up here and vote on pilots as we have, homeowners, property values that are skyrocketing and their taxes, and they're being increased pretty dramatically, I think, throughout the town. Also, I just think it's real odd how all these developers now are coming back to us with just 5-year pilots. I feel like it's their way of avoiding the county and the school board. And honestly, after the past 2 years that we have had with apartment building pilots, I have pilot fatigue. So those are my comments, and I'm ready to vote on 18 and 19.
All right, well, we'll start with 18. Any other comments on that? Otherwise, look for a motion from council. Motion President Sandy, second from Berg. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Motion carries 6-1 with Osowski dissenting.
And 5.19, set public hearing on application of tax incentive, a pilot for RTVMPS LLC, doing business as The Domain, located at 1065 47th Avenue South.
All right. Got a motion to approve President Sandy. We have a second.
Second.
Second from Ms. Berg. Any further discussion? 519, seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Motion carries 6-1 with Osowski dissenting.
And last item, 5.21, Alair Center scoreboard bid process, update and review of Grand Forks Event Center Commission and City Council authority related to the Alair Center.
All right, and I think we had a good discussion last week. The only thing I was going to add is there's been talks, do we need to make any changes with the way the Alair Center Commission works, where it operates? I don't think we do. I think they're doing a lot of great work. I want to keep all the same people. I think that's the exact right mix that we need. But in thinking about this, I think one benefit, and to be able to get the public and the rest of us to be able to see all the tremendous work that they're doing, it is the only committee, I believe, the city committee, that doesn't meet downtown here. So I was going to ask through a city council resolution that we would require the commission, just like all of our others, to meet here in council chambers. Then they'd be televised. We could go back and watch if we had questions, and give an opportunity for them to be in this great room, just like all of our other commissions. I know the Board of Health did the same thing. So they could definitely pick what time works for them. I've worked with John Bernstrom. As long as it's not, a night that they're not already here, so we don't have an increased cost. They can meet at the same time they currently do. But that's what I would be asking for tonight, just to move forward. And again, bring it into the city, just like we have everything else, as it is a city commission, and they do a great job, and want everyone to be able to see that.
I have a comment.
Please.
First of all, I 100% agree with you. I think it's just when committees have their meeting within our chambers, it just makes everything seem a little bit more official. And I do think that we should be recording their meetings. We did move public health, not too long ago into the chambers. And I think it just really sets a good precedence. And so with that, I would like to motion that the Alaris board meet in the chambers, and they're allowed to pick their times and whatever. Do we need a motion for that?
Yeah, so I guess the motion I'd be asking for is a resolution from the city council, having the meetings here within council chambers. That would be meetings and subcommittee, so committee and subcommittee meetings. They'd be televised just like all of our other meetings. And we'd open, other than 5:30 on Mondays, and 5:30 on Wednesdays, they probably got to pick a different time for those two, but whatever's available, they can certainly pick the right time. And just further, I mean, the Alaris Center is a great asset for the community. There's a lot of money that goes into that to keep it up, to be one of the premier facilities. So I think it's important to have those types of meetings here going forward. So I guess that's what I was looking for, would be a resolution through the city attorney's office, just to those points.
I agree with you 100%. And so I do motion that.
Got a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
A second from Ms. Berg.
Question. Does that include Brook as well? Because I want to be cognizant of the base participation in that.
In the which?
In Brook.
Brook currently is right across the street.
Okay.
And so that's currently meeting, I guess, downtown as well. But certainly, I think in that group, we have more than 9 members. It'd be hard to get them around the table here. But I guess I feel comfortable knowing that it's right here, downtown, the same area.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Vice President Wager, a comment?
My only question would be, does it have to be council chambers? Could they meet downtown at the same location?
I think to have it televised and to be able to, be able to go back and watch them, have them on Channel 2 on Facebook, like everything else, this is the easiest place to do that. And we have staff that's available to operate those meetings. So it'd be similar to the Growth Fund, to the JDA, to the Board of Equalization, to Planning and Zoning, to Board of Health. I just think comes in the fold with all the rest of the committees. Any further comments? We have a motion and a second on the floor. Mr. Veen.
Yeah, it's hard to argue against that fact, that we should have almost all of our meetings open. I know the issue here was to take the politics out of it. That's why we looked at having it separated and run by the business sector, not necessarily make it political. But if we do that, then I think we need to do that for all meetings, not just handpick ones that we can and can't do it. So if it is, it'll be overall, it'll be consistent, and we just do it that way.
Yeah, I think that makes perfect sense.
So would that include the airport authority as well?
Well, it's a separate entity, so I think the airport authority has its own political subdivision.
Okay.
So
And we're televised already at the airport authority.
I think there's a few members that would prefer that, not have to drive out there, but.
Yeah, I would prefer it be in the council chambers, but.
All right, seeing no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. That motion carries unanimously. And then to the further item 5.21, we do need a motion. Got a motion to approve 5.21. Who was the second? President Sandy motion. It's the Alaris Center scoreboard bid process from 2 weeks ago. It feels like a month ago now, but I'm sorry, I didn't get who the second was. It was Ms. Berg. So motion President Sandy, second from Ms. Berg. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. All right, move on to item 6, information items. There are none. So item 7, approval of minutes and bills.
7.1 is the vendor list and engineer's estimate that's attached.
Motion to approve.
Got a motion approved from Ms. Berg, second from Ms. Lunsky.
I have a quick comment.
Please, Ms. Osowski.
I just want to say thank you to our finance department. When I went through the vendors list, it was very detailed on the way that the money was going out and being spent. And so I greatly appreciate that. Very easy to read. Shouldn't have many questions. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other comments? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously.
And 7.2 minutes from March 16th.
Motion to approve.
Motion approved from Berg. She's on a roll tonight. Any seconds? Second from Ms. Lunsky. Any comments or changes? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Item 8, Mr. Phelan, any comments this evening?
Thank you, Al Grasser.
Well said. Well said. All right. With that, we'll move on to item 9, mayor and council member comments. Ms. Osowski, any comments this evening?
I'm going to have to ditto Mr. Phelan. It was a pleasure meeting you, and getting to work with you. So thank you.
Ms. Berg?
Likewise, and then to address a question that was brought up during public comment regarding the conflict of interest on assessments, we still have to fall within North Dakota Century Code law on how our own homes are assessed. What is it, 5% of the true and full value? 10%. So that is still applies to all of us. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Berg. Ms. Lunsky, any comments this evening?
I want to say thank you and congratulations to Kim Greendahl on her retirement. And I think what she did for the Greenway was pretty amazing. I had the opportunity to work with her on quite a few projects. So thank you, Kim.
Thank you, Ms. Lunsky. Mr. Friedolfs, any comments?
No, sir.
All right. Hope you're feeling better soon.
Thank you.
Mr. Veen, any comments?
No, I'd probably reiterate what Todd had just said. Thank you, Al, for all those years of work. It's been a long ride, and thank you much. You've accomplished much.
Oh, perfect. Vice President Weigel.
Just thank you to Al and Kim for their service to our community. Also to mention Mr. Krausnick, he is right. I was wrong last week when I said you could find out the owner. It is the registered agent. And so I apologize for that. But that's all I'd have.
All right. Thank you, Vice President Weigel. President Sandy.
Danny's terrible. God.
He's been growing a mustache
What
ever
is
since.
going on? Yeah. Kudos to Grasser and Kim, of course. They're two great citizens that work tirelessly for the community, and they should be applauded for all their efforts. Mayor, also the residential property tax abatement that we provide is a rubber stamp. We don't need to find someone else to vote on it, whether we have a property or not, because everyone that applies gets it. It has nothing to do with the people that are sitting up here. Also, I do want to point out that we did hear from a lot of people today about their property tax valuations increasing dramatically. Mine did as well. We also have to understand and take it with a grain of salt that our effective property tax rate in Grand Forks for residential housing is 1.54%. So I'm not saying it isn't money. It is. But a $10,000 increase in your valuation equates to $154 total increase for the year in your property taxes, which of course divided by 12 is what? $15 a month in your mortgage payment. It's not that it's not money. It is money. It's real money to a lot of people, but we also have to recognize that and try to keep it in perspective. Mayor, I do appreciate all the efforts that so many people in the assessing department do for our community, also trying to be fair. Thank you.
I appreciate that. That made me think right there. My assessment, I think, went up 50,000. It's really awkward if you are up here and then you go around there and protest and then come back and sit down. So that's why I didn't protest. The only other thing I wanted to add is I think just some more words for Mr. Grasser. I think anytime it rains hard in this town, a lot of people sleep pretty soundly because of the work that you've done, and they know in the spring that we're going to be safe, that we're not going to flood. You've gone above and beyond over many, many years, and I think a community owes you a debt of gratitude, a debt of service for that, and not just the flood protection, but the infrastructure throughout the city is very robust, and engineering department has been formed in your image, and I think it's in a very good place and very good hands moving into the future. So I really appreciate a job well done. So thank you for that, and we'll leave it at there. If someone's ready to
I move
motion to
adjournment.
adjourn. Motion from Osowski, second from Berg. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously.